Ruoxi's eyes were still on the phone screen. The unread message flashed with the words, "Are you working overtime tonight?" The next second, the world was spinning. Her body seemed to be swallowed up by an invisible whirlpool, and a low buzzing echoed in her ears, as if the entire universe was disintegrating. The pungent wind mixed with the smell of earth and decay hit her face. She opened her eyes suddenly and found herself lying on the damp grass, surrounded by dense ancient forests. The tree crowns blocked the sky like giant beasts, and the sun cast mottled light and shadow from the gaps between the leaves. Where is this?" Ruoxi murmured to herself, her heart beating like a drum. She rubbed her eyes, trying to recall what had just happened. She was watching a TV series in the dormitory. Why did she suddenly travel through time? This kind of bloody plot should only appear in novels. She climbed up, wiped the dirt off her body, and found that she was holding an ancient book in her right hand. The cover is made of yellowed leather, engraved with strange runes, and glows faintly with a blue light. What is this? Where is my phone? The surrounding air suddenly became cold, and the leaves rustled, as if something was approaching. Ruoxi turned around alertly and saw the forest filled with mist, and several skinny black figures emerging from the shadows. That's a skeleton. Their skeletons made a clicking sound, their empty eye sockets were burning with green will-o'-the-wisps, and they slowly surrounded them with rusty sickles in their hands. Are you kidding me? Ruoxi took a few steps back, her heart beating wildly. She is not a fighting madman, she is just an ordinary college student who can at most know some yoga. She grabbed a branch on the ground and used it as a weapon, and countless novel plots flashed through her mind. A different world, monster attacks, this is a standard start. But the fear of reality made her legs weak. Go away. You fakes. The first skeleton rushed forward, its scythe slashing through the air, making a sharp whistle. Ruoxi instinctively swung the branch and hit its skull, but it only made a muffled sound. The thing shook and moved on. Another one came from the side, claws scratching her sleeve, and the cold touch stung like a knife. She screamed and stumbled to the ground. The prophecy book slipped from her hands and opened a page. On the page, the ink squirmed like a living thing, and a line of blood-red text appeared. The tide of the undead will swallow Aldia, the Dark Lord will resurrect, and all things will return to dust. What the hell? Ruoxi gasped and got up, her mind in confusion. More skeletons came towards her, and she swung wildly, but was hit hard on the shoulder by a heavy blow. The severe pain made her eyesight go black. The smell of blood filled the air, and she fell into the mud, watching helplessly as the scythe fell. Death comes so quickly and the world goes dark instantly. Pain. The boundless pain receded like a tide. Ruoxi opened her eyes suddenly and saw the forest land again. The sun was still dappled, her hands still held the prophecy book, but her heartbeat was as steady as before. Dead. But now. She lowered her head to check. Her shoulders were intact and her clothes were not torn. The memory of just now is vivid in my mind, those skeletons, the cold light of the sickle, the prophecy in the book. It's not a dream, this is rebirth. She opened the prophecy book and the runes appeared again. This time, she vaguely understood, this is a time loop. Her consciousness retains all experiences, and death is just a reboot. It's so ridiculous. But if this is the golden finger, I have to use it to survive. I can't panic anymore. I have to break the undead catastrophe mentioned in that book. Protect yourself, protect the people here. Ruoxi took a deep breath, breaking away from the lost panic, and a determined flame surged in her heart. She can no longer be a victim, she must take the initiative. The mist rose again in the forest, and the clicking of skeletons sounded again. Ruoxi didn't flinch this time, she remembered their weak point, the skull. She picked up a thick branch, held the prophecy book tightly, and murmured, "Come on, I'm ready this time." She turned sideways to dodge the first blow, and the branch accurately hit the skull's eye socket. The green fire went out, and the thing fell to the ground. Another one pounced, and she hit its joints with the book. The pain in her memory made her move faster. Ha, remember, your bones are not that hard. During the battle, she caught a glimpse of new text flashing on the page. The Dark Lord is about to awaken the undead on the border, and the first wave will attack before dusk. Dusk? She looked up and saw that the sky was turning westward. Damn, time is running out. Panic surged up again, but she gritted her teeth and suppressed it, and instead took the initiative to explore the surroundings. We can't just sit back and wait for death, we have to find weapons and allies. There was a path at the edge of the forest. She ran along it, her footsteps making crisp sounds on the fallen leaves, and the smell of decay became stronger in the air. At the end of the trail was an abandoned campsite, with the embers of the campfire still warm. Ruoxi stopped panting and heard whispers. Who's there? A figure flashed out from behind the tent. She was a girl, about 18 or 19 years old, wearing a shabby cloak and holding a staff engraved with runes in her hand. Her eyes were as dark as night, and her face was covered with dust, but there was a vigilant sharpness. Don't move. Who are you? A spy of the undead, the girl shouted, and the tip of the staff shimmered. Ruoxi raised her hands, her mind racing. If you can't scare her away, this might be an opportunity. I'm not an enemy. My name is Ruoxi, and I just came here. Those skeletons attacked me, do you know how to deal with them? The girl squinted her eyes and looked at her, lowering her staff slightly. New here? Your clothes look weird. Huh, my name is Ping, and I'm a wandering summoner. This forest is the border of the undead, and it's getting more and more restless recently. You're lucky, you didn't get chewed up. She walked closer, caught a glimpse of the prophecy book in Ruoxi's hand, and her eyes changed. That's a prophecy book? God, where did you get it from? This thing is taboo, an artifact level. Ruoxi felt happy, this girl knew her stuff. It appeared on its own. The book said that the undead apocalypse is coming, the Dark Lord or something. Can you tell me more? What happened to those skeletons? Ping sighed, sat by the campfire, and motioned for Ruoxi to come closer. The firelight illuminated her face, revealing a hint of exhaustion. Sit down, novice. The continent of Aldia used to be peaceful, with humans, elves, and dwarves living in their own ways. But the Dark Lord, said to be an ancient monster, has been resurrecting recently. It can control the undead. Those skeletons are the lowest level, powered by will-o'-the-wisps, and their weakness is in the core crystal core, usually hidden in the chest. Just smash them. But when the army comes, it will be troublesome. She paused, and a warning flashed in her eyes. The prophecy book can predict the fate, but it can also curse the holder. How much have you interpreted? Ruoxi hesitated for a moment and showed the pages of the book. It said the first wave attacked before dusk. I just experienced something, and now I know how to fight. But I need weapons. This book seems to help me draw a blueprint or something. She recalled the fragment before her death and vaguely grasped the inspiration. The runes in the book are like design drawings. Can she create divine weapons? Ping's eyes lit up and she moved closer to the page. Blueprint skills? A lost thing. Undead summoners like me specialize in dealing with these, but we also have to rely on equipment. Try it, concentrate, and infuse runes with your thoughts. Simple, start with a dagger. She handed over a dead branch as a pen and guided, imagine its shape, sharp and corrosion resistant. Undead are afraid of light, add some of that element. Ruoxi nodded, feeling excited inside. This is the beginning of growth, from helplessness to control. She closed her eyes, held the dead branch tightly, and sketched it on the soil. The prophecy book hummed, runes scattered like starlight, and lines formed on the ground. A short dagger flashing with silver light slowly emerged, with faint luminous runes engraved on the blade. It's done. She grabbed the dagger, which felt cold but full of power. It screamed softly when she swung it. Ping whistled and patted her shoulder. Yes, it is fast for beginners. This thing can break the bone armor of low-level undead. Listen, Ruoxi, we have to evacuate before dusk. There is a village on the border, and I know the way. But the disaster is coming, and we can't fight alone. You have a prophecy book, maybe you can help. Follow me. Ruoxi clenched her dagger and looked at the darkening sky. Panic turning into determination, she nodded. Let's go. I won't die a second time. Ping, teach me more about the weaknesses of the undead. We have to be ready. Ping grinned and packed her bags. Deal. Remember, the undead army has levels. Skeletons are cannon fodder, and there are ghosts and corpse witches behind them. Tactically, don't fight hard, look for crystal cores to attack. Come on, let's talk as we go. As the two walked along the path, the wind in the forest became louder and louder, and there was a faint echo of the friction of bones. Ruoxi thought to herself that although this other world was cruel, she was no longer the lost girl. The weight of the prophecy is heavy in my hand, and the secrets of the cycle are as sharp as a sharp blade. She wants to use them to tear off the shackles of fate. The afterglow of dusk lengthened their shadows, and ahead, the unknown flames of war were raging. The afterglow of dusk sprinkled like blood on the forest path. Ruoxi's footsteps stepped on the thick layer of fallen leaves, making a tiny clicking sound. The air was filled with the smell of damp earth mixed with the stench of decay in the distance. Ping led the way, tapping the ground with her staff, making a low rhythm, as if testing for hidden dangers ahead. Hurry up, Ruoxi, the village is just ahead. It's the Ashes village on the border. It's relatively safe, but the undead have been active recently. It's best not to wander around after dusk. Ping's voice was wary, and the figure under the cloak elongated in the dusk. Ruoxi held the dagger tightly, her mind churning with memories of the previous battle. The homemade silver blade warmed slightly in her hand, making her feel that she was no longer the powerless time traveler. Ping, what alliance are you talking about? It is mentioned in the book that all races form an alliance to fight against the enemy. She tried to distract herself, but the words in the prophecy book were involuntarily replayed in her mind, Tide of the Undead, Lord of Darkness. The words weighed on her chest like a stone, and she needed to figure out more clues. Ping glanced back at her, with a wry smile on her lips. Alliance? Ha, that's a trick played by the big shots of elves and dwarves. The human leader Saint Gerald always mentioned this, saying that only by uniting all races can we block the darkness. But what is the reality? The farmers in the village are still fighting over a piece of bread. The prophecy book can give you more hints, try asking it, concentrate your mind and recite the clue silently. Ruoxi nodded and opened the book. The runes flowed like living water, and a blurry image appeared on the page, a dilapidated village, with skeletons emerging from the ground and surrounding the wooden fence. The text flashed, on the night of the fall of Ashes village, ambushed at the edge of the forest on the east side, guided by the crystal core. Her heart sank. There is an ambush on the east side. Ping, we have to be careful. Ping frowned and quickened her pace. Your book is really evil. To the east is the entrance to the village. It's usually fine, but tonight. Before he could finish his words, a low humming sound came from the trees ahead, and the mist surged up like a ghost. The outline of the village was vaguely visible, and the chimneys of the wooden houses were still emitting smoke, but they were shrouded in an eerie green light. As soon as they stepped out of the forest edge, a group of skeletons burst out from the bushes on the east side. The skeletons were wrapped with thorny vines, and will-o-wisps danced wildly in their eye sockets. The leader was a larger one, with the crystal core in its chest flashing red, pulsing like a heart. Damn it, it's an ambush. Ping shouted and waved her staff, summoning a weak blue light barrier to block the first wave of scythe attacks. The collision of metal and magic made a harsh buzzing sound, and Ruoxi smelled the smell of burnt bones. Ruoxi swung the dagger, and the silver light streaked across the arm bones of a skeleton, cutting off the joints, but more came. She remembered the weak point, aimed at the chest and stabbed it. The dagger sank into the crystal core, the green fire went out, and the thing collapsed. Ping, back off. They have a commander. But in the chaos, a shadow rushed from the side, a corpse witch, wearing a tattered robe and holding a corrosive sphere. Ping's barrier shattered and the magic ball hit her shoulder. She screamed and fell to the ground, black smoke rising from her skin. Ping! Ruoxi rushed over and swung her dagger wildly, but was caught in the back by the corpse witch's claws. The pain is like burning, and the vision is blurred. She saw the lights in the village flickering and the faint screams of the villagers. The prophecy fell, its pages flashing warnings, but it was too late. The corpse witch's magic ball exploded, and darkness swallowed everything. The chill of death struck again, and she thought, it can't be like this. I have to be stronger. Amidst the buzzing sound, Ruoxi sat up suddenly and saw the forest land again. The sun is dappled, the prophecy book is in hand, and memories are flooding in. Is this the second death, the third restart? No, the point is experience. She stood up panting, the pain in her shoulder still lingering like a phantom pain. Damn it, the village has fallen. I am ambushing on the east side. I have to take a detour and enter from the west side. There was a rage in my heart, not fear, but resistance to this curse-like cycle. She is not a victim, she wants to change everything. Protecting Ping, protecting the village, this other world, she began to feel the weight on her shoulders, like a stone, reminding her that she couldn't just escape. She followed the path, this time avoiding the east side and ducking into the thorn bushes on the west side. The thorns tore through her sleeves and stung her skin, but she gritted her teeth and endured it. The prophecy book was slightly hot, and she recited the clue silently, and new text appeared on the page. The prophecy book comes from an ancient temple, and there are fragments of pages hidden in border villages to unlock the secret of the blueprint. Ancient temple? Is there one in the village? Ruoxi murmured, quickening her pace. As the sun set, she finally walked around to the west of the village, and the outline of Ash's village came into view. This time, there was no buzz of an ambush, only the crowing of cocks and the smell of cooking smoke in the distance, which made her sigh in relief. At the entrance of the village, a figure flashed out. It was Ping. In her memory, she had not been attacked yet. Who's there? Stop! Ping raised her staff, her eyes sharp. Ruoxi raised her hand and showed a familiar smile. It's me, Ruoxi. Don't be nervous, I took a detour and came from the west. There are ambushes, skeletons, and corpse witches on the east side. Ping was stunned and put down the staff. How do you know? We just met, and you already knew it. She walked closer, looked at Ruoxi, and smelled the scent of thorns and blood on her body. The prophecy book trick. Huh, you are really good. Go into the village, but keep a low profile. The villagers are afraid of strangers, especially those with artifacts. In the village, wooden houses are scattered, and the aroma of baking bread floats in the air, mixed with the moisture of the earth. Several farmers looked around curiously, and Ruoxi and Ping slipped into a hut. The candlelight flickered in the house, the brazier was lit, and the heat hit my face. Sit down and talk about your book. I believe in the ambush you just mentioned. But if you want to survive, you have to learn some real skills. She took out a few crystal core fragments from under her cloak, and the green light dimmed. I am a summoner of the undead. I can control low-level undead, but the risks are high. Want to learn basic techniques? Start with induction. Ruoxi nodded, feeling excited. This is the transition, from dependence to learning. Teach me. The book says I can command skeletons. How to do it? Ping grinned and handed over a crystal core. Hold it tight and feel its pulse. The undead are not monsters, but the remnant souls that have been controlled. Inject your thoughts and silently say, obey. But be careful, the backlash will burn your brain. She demonstrated, the crystal core lit up, and a wandering skeleton staggered over to the house and knelt down. On a small scale, 3 or 5 at most. Give it a try. Ruoxi held the crystal core, and the cold touch rushed into her mind like electricity. Flashing back to the battle in her memory, she concentrated and chanted silently. The crystal core trembled, and a green light connected to the outside of the house. The skeleton turned around and stood guard at the door with a rattling sound. "It's done," she said in surprise, feeling a power awakening in her body. Not blind power, but control. She can make decisions independently and no longer relies entirely on Ping. Ping clapped her hands. "Yes, high talent. Where's the blueprint? Last time you made a dagger to try out defense. When the undead attack, the shield can save lives." Ruoxi opened the prophecy book and poured her thoughts into the defense blueprint. Runes surged, and she used the charcoal pen in the room to sketch it on the wooden table, a round shield, with light runes engraved on the edge, and a crystal core embedded in the core. The pages buzzed, the lines glowed, and the translucent shield slowly took shape. The surface rippled like water waves, and the tentacles were gentle but tough. Magic shield. She raised it and let out a low roar as she swung it, blocking a small fireball from Ping Tan without any damage. "Awesome!" Ping's eyes lit up. "This thing can absorb magic power and destroy mid-level undead." "Listen, Ruoxi, your book is the key. But the disaster is coming, and we can't do it alone. The village chief said that the alliance meeting will be held soon, and Saint Jia will come to patrol." As soon as he finished speaking, the sound of horse hooves sounded outside the house, and dust flew up. The door was pushed open, and a group of armed soldiers broke in. The leader was a tall man with an eagle emblem engraved on his armor, a resolute face, and eyes like an eagle. "Ping, is it you again? There is something strange happening in the village, please report it." He glanced at Ruoxi and frowned. "Who is this girl? She carries an ancient book and is suspected to be an undead spy." Ping stood up. "Xingjie, don't worry. She is Ruoxi, and she has a prophecy book. She just foresaw an ambush on the east side, and we went around it." Xingjie sneered and drew his sword. "Prophecy? It sounds like nonsense. The Dark Lord's men are full of lies. Prove it to me, or else you will be arrested." His soldiers surrounded him, the cold light of their swords flashed, and the smell of rust filled the air. Ruoxi's heartbeat was racing, but her heart was calm. This is a test. She stands up and makes independent decisions. "Xingjie, I know that the undead catastrophe is about to break out. The prophecy is not a lie, look at this." She activated the shield and handed it to a soldier. "Try, your equipment is too old, strengthen it." Injecting her thoughts into the book, the blueprint emerged, and she quickly carved symbols on the soldiers' shields. The shield glows, with multiple light blades coming out of its edges. The soldier tried to swing it, but the shield bounced off a test stone, making a crisp cracking sound. Xingjie's eyes changed and he touched his chin. "Blueprint skill? It's a lost thing, where did you learn it?" "From the book." Ruoxi looked directly at him with a firm voice. "I've been through it, many times. The village will fall, but we can change it. Alliance meeting, are you the leader? Let me join and strengthen your team. I don't just want to live, I want to protect this continent." When she finished speaking, she was stunned, her sense of responsibility was like a flame. This was not her world, but it had become her battlefield. Xingjie was silent for a moment and sheathed his sword. Preliminary alliance. "Ping, take her with the team. Patrol the east side and verify the prophecy. If it is true, the alliance will need you." He turned around, the soldiers followed, and the sound of horse hooves sounded again. Ping whispered, "Well done, from relying on me to convincing him. You have changed, Ruoxi." Ruoxi clenched her shield and looked out the window at the night. The lights of the village flickered, and green fire loomed in the forest in the distance. This was just the beginning, she thought. She wants to break the shackles of the circle one by one. The ambush on the east side is waiting for her to reverse. The night was as thick as ink, and the ghostly light of green fire was faintly revealed on the edge of the forest on the east side of Ember Village. Ruoxi held onto her shield tightly and followed the Xingjie team. Ping's staff glowed slightly beside her, illuminating the way forward. The soldier's armor made a low scraping sound, and the air was filled with the smell of damp rot, making people breathless. Xingjie, the ambush is just ahead. Take the lead with the corpse witch. Don't scatter. Ruoxi reminded in a low voice, with the memory of the previous 2 cycles in her voice, and the pain was still aching in her bones. Xingjie nodded, the sword's blade flashing in the moonlight. It's up to you, girl. Soldier, bows and arrows are cocked, shields are raised. He glanced at Ping, summoner, prepare your little trick. Ping bit her lip and held the crystal core tightly. I try my best, but these undead are getting more and more troublesome. As soon as they stepped into the edge of the forest, the ground began to tremble. The bushes on the east side exploded, and more than a dozen skeletons poured out like a tide. The corpse witch behind him waved his staff, and corrosion balls rained down on him. The green fire turned everyone's faces red. Ruoxi raised her shield to block the blow, and the silver light spread like ripples, absorbing the magic power. Left wing. They're outflanking, she shouted, remembering that this was the key, this was where the collapse happened last time. Ping summoned 3 skeleton guards, and the skeletons collided to block the side attack. But the corpse witch's magic ball hit Xingjie's soldiers, and a young man fell to the ground, with black smoke coming out of his skin, and his screams echoed in the forest. Damn it! Xingjie swung his sword to cut off a skeleton, and the smell of blood hit his nostrils. Ruoxi stabbed out the dagger and aimed at the crystal core. The green fire extinguished one, but more came. She felt exhausted, the advantages of the circle becoming blurred by consumption. Hold on, I know they'll come out of the trees. Before he finished speaking, a shadow jumped down from the branch and hit Ping directly. The corpse witch's claws tore through her cloak, the crystal core shattered, and the summons disintegrated. Ping screamed and fell to the ground. Ruoxi rushed over. The moment the shield shattered, the magic ball hit her chest. The heat was like fire, and the vision was dark. She finally saw Xingjie's sword flashing and thought, it's not enough. The team is not stable enough. The biting chill subsided, Ruoxi opened her eyes suddenly, and the familiar forest sunlight shone down. She sat up with a gasp, the prophecy book trembling slightly in her hands. This is the 3rd cycle. The pain of death aches like an old wound, but there is no longer pure panic in my heart, but a burning determination. 3 times, can't waste it anymore. I have to dig deeper into this book to find out the root of the catastrophe. She opened the book, closed her eyes and concentrated her thoughts, silently reciting, interpretation, catastrophe of the undead. Runes surged like a galaxy, and a blood-red image appeared on the page. Deep in a gloomy ruins on the border of Aldia continent, the figure of the Dark Lord was looming. The text slowly took shape. The great disaster broke out on the night of the full moon, with the ruins of the Dark Frontier as the source. The undead army awakened from the underground, the first wave engulfed the Ash village, and 3 days later swept through the Alliance fortress. Full moon. Ruoxi looked up and saw that the sky was blue. She counted the days, exactly 3 days later. The location is a ruins, the materials for the lost blueprint are there. The fragments of the ancient temple can strengthen the divine weapons. She murmured, feeling a surge of heat in her heart. Instead of escaping, this time she will take the initiative and lead people to eliminate the source. From working alone to leading a team, this transition made her feel strange but at ease. She hurried along the path to the village, this time heading straight to Ping's camp. As the sun set, she opened the door of the small house. Pingzhen wiped her staff, and raised her head to be alert. It's you again. Ruoxi, you predicted the ambush last time and saved our lives. Xingjie said that we need to gather strength before the alliance meeting. Ruoxi sat down and looked directly at her. Ping, listen. I know the specific time of the catastrophe, the full moon will erupt in 3 days, and the ruins of the Dark Frontier will erupt. We have to go there and find blueprint materials, fragments of the ancient temple, which can upgrade my divine weapons. Where is Xinjie? Bring his team and we will sneak in. Her tone no longer hesitated, as if she was giving an order, and a trace of self-mockery flashed through her heart. When did I become a leader? But it feels, not bad. Ping was stunned for a moment, then grinned. You look like a different person. Okay, I believe you. Saint Jia is in the village square, back from patrol. She stood up and swung her cloak, but the ruins are forbidden areas, lairs of the undead, and elf scouts often hang out there. We have to be careful. In the village square, Xingjie and the soldiers were distributing food, torches were blazing, and the smell of barbecue was in the air. Ruoxi approached and said in a loud voice, Xingjie, the full moon is in 3 days, and the catastrophe will start from the ruins of the Dark Frontier. We can't wait for the Alliance meeting, we have to sneak in first and grab materials to strengthen the equipment. Follow me. Xingjie turned around and frowned. Girl, you are brave. Ruins? That's a death trap. The whole team was wiped out last time. The soldiers whispered, but Ruoxi did not flinch. She raised the prophecy book and activated a page of images, the outline of the ruins, filled with green fire. Look, this is prediction. The material can turn your sword into a divine weapon, and we can reverse it. The inner monologue was like lightning. I can't let them die anymore, I have to take the lead. Xingjie was silent for a moment and patted the hilt of his sword. The Alliance needs such talents. Okay, 5 people in the team, plus Ping and you. Let's set off tomorrow morning. His eyes changed from suspicion to recognition, and he turned around and shouted, pack your bags, the dark border is waiting for us. In the early morning of the next day, the team set off in mist. The horses' hooves stepped on the muddy path, making a muffled sound. Ruoxi was riding next to Xingjie and behind Pingdian. The chirping of birds in the forest is getting thinner, and the smell of decay is getting stronger. Stay in formation, the undead sense is weak, but you're welcome to the elf scouts. Ruoxi whispered, simulating the battle situation in her mind. The first 2 times were melees, but this time we need teamwork. Half a day later, they arrived at the border wilderness, with towering cliffs and the entrance to the ruins hidden behind vines. Suddenly, an arrow shot through the air, grazed Xingjie's shoulder, and embedded itself in the tree trunk. 3 figures jumped out of the forest, elf scouts, wearing green leaf armor, bows and arrows strung, ears sharp, and eyes like eagles. Human intruders. The ruins are a forbidden area for elves, get out of here. The leading elf shouted, his voice as clear as a wind chime, but with murderous intent. The soldier drew his sword, and the saint stood in front of him. We are not enemies. Come find the source of the undead. But the arrow rain came again, and 1 arrow hit Ping's horse leg. She rolled down and her staff hit the ground. Damn it, these self-righteous guys from the elves. In the confusion, Ruoxi's mind flashed back to fragments of the prophecy book. The elves and humans had old grudges, and the last alliance meeting was blocked because of this. Stop, she shouted, dismounting from her horse and raising her hands. I am Ruoxi, holding the prophecy book. We are not here to rob, but to join forces to fight against the Dark Lord. Remember the ambush in Ember Village? Last time I resolved the crisis on the east side, your scout team owes me a life. The elf leader narrowed his eyes and loosened his bowstring. Book of Prophecy. That artifact, how do you know Ash's village? Ruoxi took a deep breath, and her heart turned around. This is not a one-on-one fight, this is a negotiation. She activated the pages of the book, and an image emerged, a vague scene of the elf scout being rescued from an ambush. Although it was a loop of memory, it was enough. Because I foresaw. During the full moon disaster, your forest will fall first. Join us and you will get a share of the materials. The elves exchanged glances, and the leader drew back his bow. I'll try to trust you once. My name is Alan, and I will lead the way. But if there is any change, the arrow will have no eyes. The conflict was resolved, the team expanded, and Alan went ahead to explore the way. Ruoxi's heart beat steadily. This was a breakthrough. From walking alone to gathering allies, she felt like a chess player, anticipating every move. Going deep into the ruins, the stone steps are slippery, the walls are carved with ancient runes, and the air is as cold as a tomb, echoing with the low whistle of the wind. Ping whispered, "The magic power is strong here, and the undead can appear at any time." Ruoxi nodded, held the book tightly, and poured her thoughts into attack blueprint, bow and arrow. Runes surged, and she traced them on the stone with her dagger. The long bow had a graceful arc, the arrows were embedded with light crystals, they had a long range, and they penetrated bones like paper. To Alan. She handed over the formed silver bow, which was light to the touch but full of tension. Alan tried to pull it, the bowstring buzzed, and an arrow shot through the stone pillar in the distance, causing debris to fly. Magic weapon. Elf archery combined with this, invincible. His eyes warmed. "Thanks, Ruoxi. You are a strategist." The morale of the team was high, and Xingjie patted her on the shoulder. "Well done," from a girl to a general. Ruoxi smiled, and inner transformation emerged. Leadership is not a burden, but strength. She began to command. "Ping, summon the Pathfinder skeleton. Xingjie, soldiers guard the two wings. Alan, arrow cover. Let's go straight to the core room." At the corner, Ping held the crystal core and silently called. This time, she pushed her limits, the green light flourished, and 5 skeletons sprang out, with magic vines wrapped around the skeletons, making them stronger than before. Breakthrough. Ping was excited. "Your blueprint inspiration allows me to control more." The skeleton opened the way, smashing the low-level undead, and the clicking sound echoed. But when he got deep into the core, the prophecy book suddenly burned like fire, and Ruoxi's mind went blank for a while. Memories dispersed like fog, all the details of the loop and the names of allies were forgotten. The curse mentioned in the book. She knelt down with a splitting headache. The soldier exclaimed, "Ruoxi. What's wrong?" Xingjie helped her. "Hold on. We believe in you." Ping held her shoulders. "Concentrate your mind, the book is yours, take it back." Ruoxi gritted her teeth and struggled internally. She cannot fail, this is a test. Will is like a hammer, smashing into the fog. She silently recited, "Recovery." The pages of the book flickered, and memories came back like a tide. Ping's smile, Xingjie's sword, Alan's arrow. "I'm back." She stood up, her voice trembling but firm. "The curse will bite back the memory, but we are a team. I will be careful next time. Continue, there is a material room ahead." The eyes of the allies became more trusting, and Xingjie nodded. "The alliance starts from here. I will gather more strength and hold a small meeting after returning to the village." Ping held the staff tightly. "I can also summon the intermediate level, thank you for your encouragement." Alan whispered, "The elves will listen to your prophecies." They pushed open the stone door, green fire flickered indoors, broken pages of the ancient temple were scattered, and blueprint materials were crystal clear. Ruoxi picked one up, the book buzzed, and new runes were unlocked. In the distance, the sign of the full moon looms, and the roar of the undead approaches. But this time, she is no longer alone. Her heart lit up like a torch, embracing leadership. In this different world, she wanted to lead the counterattack. Outside the door, the wind howled, and the smell of war hit his face. The moment the stone door opened with a bang, green fire erupted from the room like a frenzy, reflecting the broken pages of the ancient temple scattered on the ground. The crystal blueprint materials were still flashing in Ruoxi's hands, but the roars of the undead were already thundering out from the cracks in the stone walls. The Dark Lord's breath seemed to seep into the air, cold and sticky, making people breathless. "Stand back. There is a guardian in the core room." Saint Jia shouted, and the sword blade slashed at a mass of black mist, but countless bone claws stretched out from the mist, grabbing his armor and making a rattling sound. Ping waved her staff to summon, and the green light barely pulled up a barrier, but it was shattered by a corrosive wave, and she fell to the ground with a groan. Ruoxi, book, use a book. Alan's silver bow fired continuously, and the arrows penetrated several shadows, but more undead crawled out from the ground. These were not low-level skeletons, but semi-corporeal ghosts. Blood-red runes appeared on the wall, and the prophecy book was so hot that it seemed to burn through her palms. Ruoxi's thoughts surged wildly, trying to activate the newly unlocked runes, and the blueprint lines trembled in the air and took shape, but the backlash of the curse caused the memory fragments to disintegrate. Hold on, I have to. She gritted her teeth, and a thought flashed through her mind: she couldn't repeat the mistake again. A ghost king rushed towards her and stabbed her chest with its claws, sending the coldness like a knife through her chest. Xingjie's sword flashed and blocked it for a moment, but the team was already in chaos. Ping's scream sounded, and Alan's arrow broke in midair. Ruoxi's vision went dark, and the darkness of death swallowed everything up again. The buzz of the prophecy book echoed in my ears, whispering like a mockery, "It's not enough, you're not strong enough." The sun shone dappledly on the forest floor. Ruoxi sat up suddenly, the pain in her chest still lingering. This is the fourth cycle, and the green fire of the ruins is still burning in my mind. She took a deep breath, the familiar earthy smell in the air calming her down. Holding the prophecy book tightly, the image of the broken pages emerged. The materials were obtained, but the guardian was too strong and the team collapsed. 4 times. We can no longer attack the ruins, we must first stabilize the foundation. Test the blueprint in actual combat. A calm fire surged in my heart, not a blind impulse, but a strategist's calculation. She stood up, brushed off the fallen leaves on her body, and murmured, "This time, we'll start from the counterattack outpost. Organize small-scale operations and attract more allies. St. Jay's alliance meeting must pave the way in advance." She walked straight to the Ashes village along the path. It was still early this time, smoke was curling up from the village entrance, and the roosters crowed loudly. Ping's camp was still in the same place. Ruoxi opened the door and walked in. Ping was sharpening the crystal core and raised his head to be alert. "Ruoxi? The ruins plan you talked about last night. Wait, why did your eyes change? It looks like you've seen a ghost." Ruoxi sat down and got straight to the point. "Ping, the ruins are too dangerous, I'm changing my plan. First, counterattack the undead outpost, the small camp on the east side of the forest, which is their supply point. Can your reconnaissance skills detect the layout? Summon a little ghost to be an eyeliner, so as not to alert the army." Her tone was steady, with unquestionable confidence, and the joy of growth flashed through her heart. From asking for help to commanding, this change is like sharpening a sharp blade. Ping blinked, then grinned. "Ha, you, a newbie, have become an old bird? Okay, I'll do the reconnaissance. But there are mid-level corpse witches at the outpost, so we can't do it alone. Where is St. Jie's team? Go find him." Ruoxi stood up and the two of them went straight to the village square. Xingjie was practicing with the soldiers, sword shadows flying, sweat mixed with the smell of rust hitting his face. "Xingjie, stop!" Ruoxi shouted. Xingjie sheathed her sword and frowned slightly. "Girl, is it you again? The ruins plan has been cancelled." Pause. Ruoxi approached, her voice loud. "Before the full moon catastrophe, we have to train our troops. The eastern outpost is a testing ground. I used the prophecy book to draw a blueprint and strengthen your equipment. But humans alone are not enough, so we have to recruit dwarf craftsmen to cooperate. Their forging skills match my design, and the power of the magic weapons is doubled. You are the leader of the alliance, sending someone to talk to the border dwarf tribe?" Xingjie touched his chin, his eyes twinkling. "Dwarves? Those bearded men are as stubborn as stone, and the elves hate them. But the blueprint. The shield you gave me last time saved my life. Okay, I'll write a letter and have the scouts deliver it. I'll hear back within 2 days." He turned to the soldiers, "Get ready for counterattack. Ping, reconnaissance first. Ping nodded, holding the crystal core tightly, eyes excited. I'll go find out and I promise not to reveal anything. 2 days flew by and the village became lively. Sure enough, the dwarf craftsman arrived, a short and stocky man named Grum, with a beard like a wire, carrying a big hammer on his back, and making a thumping sound on the ground. A human scholar's gadget? A blueprint? Ha, let me see it. He said harshly, and the air was filled with the smell of soot from him. Ruoxi spread out the prophecy book in the center of the square, and the runes on the remaining pages flickered. Grum, look at this design, an explosive arrow with a crystal core embedded in its core. It explodes with flames after being shot, specifically designed to destroy groups of undead. Can your forging be materialized? Grum came closer, his eyes narrowed. Lost skills? Not bad, but the materials are lacking, you need fire crystal or dig it from the ruins. Ruoxi's heart tightened, and the image of the materials from the previous cycle flashed back. I have a sample, extracted from the book. She injected her thoughts, the pages of the book buzzed, a small fire crystal appeared, and a wave of heat hit her face. Groom whistled, artifact. Okay, let's cooperate. Set out tomorrow morning to counterattack the outpost, and I will help you forge the iron. Ping's reconnaissance report came as expected, and she slipped into the hut with dust on her face. The outpost has 20 skeletons, 5 corpse witches, and supplies are piled high with crystal cores. The terrain is a depression, making it easy to outflank. But there are traps and underground bone spurs in the middle. She drew a rough diagram, with crooked but precise lines. Tactically, shoot from a high slope and I summon chaos. Ruoxi, your blueprint is the main attack, Xingjie is close combat, and Grum is backup. Ping's tone was professional, and the depth of her contribution made Ruoxi nod. Good plan. Ping, not only do you summon, you also have a quick tactical mind. Early the next morning, the team set off, and fog shrouded the forest edge on the east side. The sound of horse hooves is muffled, and the smell of decay is getting stronger in the air. Ruoxi was riding next to Xingjie, holding the prophecy book in her hand, thinking in her mind, this is a practical test, and she will evolve through trial and error. Xingjie, after the counterattack, we have to talk about the alliance meeting. Elf Alan has relented, the dwarves are coming, humans, you take the lead. Integrate all races, otherwise a catastrophe will come, and fighting alone will be a dead end. Xingjie nodded, holding the hilt of his sword tightly. You are right, girl. The meeting was supposed to be after the full moon, but it is now brought forward. The Dark Lord waits for no one, and the old grievances of all races have to be suppressed. Your prophecy book is the key evidence. His voice was low, with the weight of a leader, and Ruoxi felt a tacit understanding, from suspicion to side by side, this was the deepening of allies. The outpost loomed, green fire swayed in the hollow, and skeleton patrols creaked. Ping whispered, go uphill, take the left. The team dispersed, with Grum panting from behind, I don't ride a horse, I'm tired. Ruoxi opened the book and concentrated on drawing the blueprint of the explosive weapon, an arrow with a sharp arc and a tail fin embedded with fire crystals. Runes surged, and she handed it to Alan. No, Alan didn't come in the previous cycle, this time it was only a small team, but the bow was strengthened. Shoot! The first arrow was shot, and the silver light streaked through the sky and disappeared into the group of skeletons. But it didn't explode. The arrows only pierced 2 of them, and the crystal cores cracked loudly, but there was no explosion. The corpse which is alert, magic balls are coming like rain, and green fire reflects red on the top of the slope. Failed. Ruoxi's heart sank. There was a flaw in the blueprint design, the fire crystal fusion was unstable, and the memory of the previous cycle flashed back, there were impurities in the relic materials. Damn, crisis. The soldier was hit by an arrow and rolled down the slope, his screams echoing. Xingjie waved his sword to block, back off. Ruoxi, adjust. The undead swarmed up the slope, bone claws clawing at the ground, and mud flying. Ruoxi knelt down, her mind confused. The fear of trial and error was like ice water poured over her head, but she gritted her teeth. Don't panic, the memory is there, this is growth. Her thoughts surged, and she adjusted the blueprint, adding diversion runes to stabilize the pulsation of the fire crystal. The pages of the book were burning hot. She used her dagger to carve a patch on the second arrow. The sweat dripped down and felt hot to the touch. Grum, forge it. The dwarf struck with his hammer, the arrow body turned red and the runes lit up. Alan, no, it was the saint's archer who pulled the bow and shot the second arrow. This time, the arrow hit the corpse witch's chest and exploded immediately. Flames bloomed like fireworks, heat waves hit the face, more than a dozen skeletons collapsed, broken bones fell like rain, and the smell of burning filled the air. It's done. Ruoxi stood up, a wave of confidence surged in her heart. From failure to innovation, I am a weapons master, not a matter of luck. This transformation was like a fire that ignited her courage. But the crisis was not resolved. Ping stepped forward to call, and the crystal core lit up. Obey. The green light spread, and she was supposed to summon her own skeletons, but she lost control. The outpost's undead energy backfired, and she inhaled too many impurities. A group of enemy ghosts sprang out from the slope, and the leader of the corpse witch roared. Green fire danced wildly, and rushed towards the team. Ping! Ruoxi shouted. Ping's face turned pale and her staff trembled. I can't control it, it's backlash. Fear follows her like a shadow, and Ruoxi's heart beats like a drum. It was like this last time, and her allies fell. But she took a deep breath and her inner monologue was brief but firm. Facing it and transforming it is a proof of courage. Ping, stay back. I'm coming. She held the prophecy book tightly, the runes on the remaining pages flickered, and her thoughts were injected into the fragments of the crystal core. The memory of the cycle emerged, and the undead were originally remnant souls and could be transferred. Listen to my orders, she yelled, her voice piercing the howling wind, the books humming, and a blue light connecting the ghosts. Some ghosts froze, the green fire turned blue, and they staggered towards the corpse witch. Bones and claws tore each other, and there was a constant sound of clicking. The leading ghost king actually knelt down, the crystal core in his chest pulsing in obedience. The transformation was successful. Ping gasped and wiped her sweat. How did you do it? That was my mistake. Ruoxi helped her and smiled. The team shared the burden. Your summons gave me an entry point, and I used the book to direct. Next time, add a stabilizing charm. The fear receded, replaced by a calmness in the face of adversity. She felt as tough as steel. At the end of the battle, the remaining power of the blasting arrows swept away the remaining enemies, and the outpost's supply crystal cores piled up into mountains. Grum laughed and patted Ruoxi on the shoulder. Little girl, the blueprint is awesome. The dwarf tribe will send more craftsmen. Xingjie put away his sword and gasped, this counterattack proves everything. The alliance meeting must be held. The integration of all tribes starts from here. Ping, your tactics saved the defenders, and you will contribute more next time. Ping nodded, with a flash in her eyes, I will do it. Reconnaissance and summoning, specializing in breaking the defense line. The team retreated to the village, the setting sun lengthened its shadow, and the green light of the crystal core dimmed in the package. Ruoxi walked at the end of the team, the prophecy book was slightly warm, and new runes appeared. The full moon counted down for 2 days, and the source of the disaster was stirring. But this time, the laughter of her allies echoed, and she thought to herself, the combat level has been raised, and integration is imminent. In the wind, there was a faint roar in the distance, and the counterattacking flames were getting stronger and stronger. The afterglow of the setting sun wrapped around the wooden fence beside the village like blood threads. When the team entered the Ashes village, the cheers of the villagers came like a tide. The aroma of barbecue mixed with the moistness of the earth hit her face, and the blazing torches lit up the square. Grum's dwarf laughter echoed loudly, ha, this trip is worth it. The crystal cores are piled up, I can fight 10 magic weapons. Ruoxi walked at the end of the team, the prophecy book was slightly hot in her arms, and the new runes were faint, making her heart tense. There were 2 days left before the full moon, and the source of the disaster was stirring. It felt like thunder before a storm. She had to quickly expand her circle of allies. Ruoxi, you did a good job. Xingjie patted her shoulder, and the armor collided with a muffled sound. His eyes revealed a rare warmth from the leader's seriousness. The counterattack on the outpost proved everything. The alliance meeting must be held in advance. All races have deep grievances, but your blueprint is a bridge. Ping followed, her face still stained with war dust under her cloak. She whispered, the undead intelligence is confirmed, the outpost is just the tip of the iceberg. Black deep in the ruins of the dark border, a large group of ghost kings are gathering. The sign of the full moon has appeared, the Green Fire Night Patrol, and the woods around the village can smell the rot. Her voice was tired, but there was a hint of dependence. Ruoxi nodded, feeling that the bond of the team was quietly strengthening. In the center of the square, villagers gathered around to divide the stolen crystal cores. Ruoxi found a stone bench and sat down, opening the prophecy book. Injecting his thoughts into full moon premonition, a blurry image appeared on the page. On the edge of the elven forest, green flames darted into the ancient trees like snakes, and the elder's face was twisted in suspicion. The elves, their forest is a key barrier and they have to ask for help. She murmured, feeling a sense of urgency in her heart. From the team to the alliance, this is her responsibility. As night fell, the celebration feast became lively, the smell of wine was fragrant, and the dwarves sang wildly. But suddenly, a low humming sound came from the forest edge in the east of the village, and green fire sprang up like a ghost. Ping's face changed, the remnants of the outpost. They have counterattacked. Xingjie drew his sword, everyone is on alert. Ruoxi stood up, holding the book tightly. I foresaw that the corpse which would take the lead, and from the ground. Before she could finish her words, the ground cracked, and bone spurs exploded like spears. The villagers screamed and scattered, and a bone spur pierced Ruoxi's chest. She was unable to get out of the way, and the moment the shield shattered, a chill ran through her body. The vision is dark, the prophecy book falls, and it hums like weeping. It's not enough. It's a sign of disaster, you ignored the night patrol. The buzzing subsided and Ruoxi opened her eyes suddenly. The sunlight in the forest was still dappled. This was the 5th cycle, and the phantom pain in her chest was lingering like an old wound, but she took a deep breath, and the fresh smell of earth made her panic quickly subside. 5th time. The precursor of the night patrol broke out 2 days before the full moon. I have to make adjustments, starting from asking for help from the elves. Book of Prophecy, give me clues. She opened the book, runes surged like starlight, and new pages were faintly loose. Deep in the elven forest, the heart of the ancient tree hides the fragments of the prophecy, and the key to alliance is unlocked amidst the suspicion of the elders. A trace of determination flashed in my heart. I am not a victim, this time I take charge of my destiny, from isolation to wide-ranging good relationships. She went straight to Ash's village. It was still dark this time, and smoke was rising from the entrance of the village. In front of Ping's camp, she pushed open the door and entered. Ping was wiping his staff and raised his head to be alert. Ruoxi? Your counterattack plan last night, wait, why did you come here so early? You look like a different person. Ruoxi sat down and looked directly at her. Ping, the sign of the full moon has appeared, and the Green Fire Night Patrol will counterattack the village. We have to expand our allies and sneak into the elf forest to ask for help. Can your undead intelligence detect the movements near the forest? Summon a little ghost to be an informant. Her tone was steady, with the calmness of a leader. Ping blinked, and then nodded. Ha, you are so stupid. The spindle turns fast. I was going to suggest that after the last counterattack, but you were ahead of the game. Okay, let me check. There are elf sentries by the forest, and the aura of the undead has seeped into the roots of the ancient trees, so they are on high alert. But intelligence revealed that the elders had sent archers to patrol, suspecting humans to be the culprit. Ping's contribution was precise, and Ruoxi felt that the tacit understanding had deepened, from a comrade in arms to a think tank. Where's Xingjie? There are only 3 of us in the core team. Ruoxi stood up and the 2 of them went straight to the village square. Xingjie was distributing crystal cores with the soldiers. His sweat was glistening. He turned around and said, "Girl, it's you again. A sign of the night patrol. I dreamed of green fire last night." "It's not a dream, it's a prophecy." Ruoxi interrupted with a loud voice, "For 2 days after the full moon, we can't wait for the alliance meeting, we have to take the initiative to ask for help from the elves. The forest is a barrier, and their archery skills combined with my blueprint can block the source of the disaster. You are the leader, promote the decision, humans form an alliance first to prove their sincerity." Xingjie touched his chin, eyes. God flashed, "Elves? There are old grievances. They shot me with an arrow in the last border dispute. But your prophecy book? Okay, there are only 3 of us in the team, and we will set off tomorrow morning. I will write a letter to the elders and bring a sample of the blueprint." His decision was bold. Ruoxi nodded, thinking, from doubt to push, this is his growth, the backbone of the team. Ping added in a low voice, "According to the information, there are undead vines wrapped around the trees deep in the forest. The elf elder's name is Isabella. She is as stubborn as an old tree root. But if there is evidence, she will let go." The 3 of them packed their bags. The lights in the village flickered at night. Ruoxi sat alone in the house, holding the book tightly. Brief inner monologue, 5 times, "I am no longer a lost person in time travel, I am the one in control. Prophecy is not a curse, it is a weapon." In the mist-filled morning, the team set off, making a muffled sound as the horses' hooves stepped on the forest path. The pine scent of ancient trees in the air is getting stronger, mixed with the hint of decay, making people alert. Xingjie opened the way and tapped the hilt of his sword. In the forbidden area of the elf forest, humans are not allowed to enter. "Ping, what's the update?" Ping held the crystal core and the green light flashed slightly, the number of sentry posts increased to 5, and the archers were alert. However, the signs of the undead were strong, and there were crystal cores pulsing under the tree roots, and they were also panicking internally. Ruoxi rode in the middle, holding a prophecy book in her arms. "The elders will be suspicious, and we have a blueprint to prove it. Strengthen their bows to defeat the undead." Half a day later, ancient trees stood tall at the edge of the forest, their crowns of leaves billowing like a sea of green, and their branches rustling in the wind like a whisper. Suddenly, the arrow shot through the air, grazed Xingjie's horse's neck, and embedded itself in the tree trunk. An elf archer jumped out of the forest, wearing leaf armor, with sharp ears, and eyes like cold knives. Human invasion. Get out of the green field, or else you'll be waiting for a rain of arrows. The leading archer pulled the string, his voice was clear but murderous. Xingjie raised his hand, "We ask to see Elder Isabella. Be sincere and fight against the common enemy, the Dark Lord." But the arrows came again. Ping summoned a barrier to block it, and the blue light crackled. Ruoxi shouted, "Stop! I am Ruoxi, holding the Book of Prophecy. There will be a disaster during the full moon, your forest will fall first, look at the evidence." She jumped off the horse, raised the book, and activated a page of images. Green flames wrapped around the trees, and the hearts of the ancient trees withered. The archers exchanged glances, and the leader narrowed his eyes. Prophecy. Humans tell a lot of lies. Follow, but if you move, you will shoot through. Going deeper into the forest, vines wrap around the path like living creatures, the air is moist and cool with moss, and the chirping of birds in the distance becomes less and less. Xingjie whispered, "Well done, Ruoxi, your courage made them let go." Ping nodded, "The information is correct, there are traces of the undead on this road, and green light shines under the trees." Ruoxi's heart warmed, and the relationships were intertwined like vines, from isolated outsiders to their pillars. Deep in the heart of the ancient tree, a wooden palace surrounded by vines stood, and the elder Isabella appeared. Her silver hair was like a waterfall, her robe was embroidered with leaf patterns, and her eyes were as deep as an ancient well. Human, tell me. Prophecy. We elves have our own prophets. The Dark Lord is old news. Why do I believe you? Her voice was like the wind passing through the forest, with pride. The air in the palace was solemn, and the guards and archers were surrounding her. Ruoxi stepped forward with a firm voice, Elder, the signs of a catastrophe have appeared. On the 2 full moon days, the undead poured out from the ruins and swallowed the forest first. The prophecy is not a lie, look at the blueprint. She opened the book and poured her thoughts into the strengthened bow blueprint, a graceful arc, arrows embedded with light crystals and tree spirit talismans, with a long range and piercing ghosts like paper. Runes surged, and she traced them with a dagger on the stone platform in the palace. The pages of the book buzzed, and a silver-green long bow took shape. It felt as light as wind, and the strings faintly pulsed with green light. Give it a try on your archer. Specialized in breaking undead vines and absorbing green fire to transform into tree spiritual power. Isabella frowned, and an archer stepped forward to test the pull. The bowstring buzzed, and an arrow was shot at the test tree target outside the palace. The arrow penetrated and exploded with green flames, but it did not damage the trees. Instead, it allowed the vines to grow vigorously and filled the air with a new breath. Magic weapon, the lost fusion technique. The archer exclaimed. Isabella's eyes changed and she touched the bow. With this, elven archery, the forest can be defended. But is the prophecy true? It proves a catastrophe. Xingjie stepped forward to push. Elder, I am Xingjie, the leader of the Human Alliance. We have counterattacked the outpost, and the dwarf craftsmen have joined us. Form an alliance to fight against the darkness, the meeting has been advanced, and all races have decided. Ping added the information, the king of the undead is gathering at the ruins, and the Green Fire Night Patrol is approaching the edge of the forest. Relying on the elves alone, the tree roots will rot. Isabella was silent for a moment, her silver hair flashing in the light. I believe 3 points. The archers will join your team, and the information will be shared. But if the prophecy is false, Green Arrow will be ruthless. Ruoxi's heart welled up with joy. This was a turning point, from an isolated outsider to a diplomatic genius. She felt the joy of forming good relationships like a warm current. Internal monologue, it's not luck, it's the trust one earned. The elder nodded, and the vines in the hall trembled slightly, as if in welcome. But on the way back, on the forest path, the prophecy book suddenly burned like fire, and Ruoxi's head buzzed loudly. Time twisted like a whirlpool, the surrounding scenery blurred, Xingjie's voice lengthened, Ruoxi, you. Ping's exclamation echoed, the book is backlashing. This was not an ordinary death, but an abnormally accelerated cycle. The curse intensified, the memory fragments collapsed, her vision went dark, and runes danced wildly in the darkness. Death comes quickly and violently, but mixed with the flash of unlocking a new page, fragments of the prophecy emerge, fate is uncertain, and those who control it are reversed. The chill subsided, Ruoxi sat up suddenly, the sunlight in the forest was dazzling. Is this a subcircle of the 5th cycle? The abnormal acceleration allowed her to restart, but her memory was only vaguely retained. A new page in the prophecy book has opened, the key to the Elven Alliance is in the blueprint of trust. She gasped and stood up, her mind was in chaos like a storm, but she quickly adapted, not panic, but calm calculation. Accelerating the cycle, the book is testing me. Inner transformation, I believe that I am the one in control, and I draw my destiny. She murmured, holding the book tightly, and the runes were as gentle as old friends. This change is like steel quenching. She is no longer afraid of restarting, but sees it as a test. She returned to the village, and this time she went straight to Ping and Xingjie, her tone more confident. An abnormal cycle, but a new unlock. The elves will form an alliance, we will go back to the forest and strengthen the archer team. Xingjie nodded, I believe in your determination. Determined. The decision has been made and the team has been expanded. Ping held the staff. Information has been updated. The omen of the undead is a little weaker, the effect of your blueprint. The three of them set off again. The wind in the forest was singing. Ruoxi led the way, thinking, the exploration is over, and the alliance is imminent. The source of the disaster is waiting for a counterattack. In the distance, the lights of the heart of the ancient tree loomed, and the footsteps of allies sounded a new chapter. The lights in the heart of the ancient tree flickered like emeralds in the mist. Ruoxi led the way, and the vines on the path were gently pushed aside, as if welcoming old friends. The muffled sound of Xingjie's horse hoofs followed, and Ping's staff occasionally tapped the ground, emitting a low rhythm. The scent of pine was rich in the air, mixed with the faint smell of decay in the distance. Ruoxi, this time we go back to the forest. Will the elf elders pay for the enhancement of the blueprint you mentioned? Xingjie asked in a low voice, with expectation in his voice, and the armor made a tiny scraping sound among the branches and leaves. Ruoxi nodded. The prophecy book felt slightly warm in her arms, and the broken pages of the new pages stabilized her mind like a warm current. Yes, the alliance was loosened last time. This time I brought evidence, the image of the undead precursor, plus the sample of the enhanced bow. Their forest is the front line, and they can't do it without us. A trace of self-mockery flashed through her heart. After 5 rounds of training, she transformed from a rookie in time travel to this appearance, and her calmness when leading the way is like instinct. Ping added, intelligence shows that the pulse of green fire under the tree roots has become stronger, and there are differences among the elders. Your book is the trump card. The three of them had a tacit understanding as before. The sound of footsteps knocked in the forest, and the outline of the wooden palace in the distance gradually became clearer. Arriving at the heart of the ancient tree, Elder Isabella was already waiting in front of the temple. Her silver hair flowed like a waterfall in the green light. She was surrounded by guards and archers, and there was a faint cold light on the arrow tip. Humans, come again. The trick of the prophecy book, the bow strengthening did work last time, but the sign of the full moon, prove it to me. Her voice was as clear as the wind, but full of temptation. The vines in the palace trembled slightly, and the air was as solemn as the eve of a rainstorm. Ruoxi stepped forward, opened the prophecy book, and poured her thoughts into premonitory images. The page buzzed, and a blood-red scene of green flames wrapping around the trees emerged. The details of the withered old trees were vivid, and the smell of decay seemed to overflow from the book. The elders' eyes changed, and the guards whispered. This, our prophet also dreams something similar. But why do you believe in you humans? Saint Jia took a step forward and said in a sonorous voice, Elder, the alliance meeting is about to begin. We humans have gathered dwarf craftsmen to counterattack the outpost to prove our strength. With your archer team joining, the forest barrier will be stable, and all races will fight against the Dark Lord. Ping handed over the information scroll. The undead kings are gathering at the ruins, and the Green Fire Night Patrol is approaching the border. If you rely on the elves alone, the tree spirits will bite you back. Isabella was silent for a moment, touching the arc of the strengthened bow. Her touch was as light as the wind. Form an alliance. The archers will follow you to the conference hall. But if the prophecy is false, Green Arrow will settle the score with you. There was cheering in the hall, and the vines stretched out like a celebration. Ruoxi's heart relaxed. This was a breakthrough. The joy of forming a good relationship was like a flame, and she felt that she was no longer an outsider, but a hub. The team expanded, and the elf archer Alan, a familiar face from the previous cycle, joined. The leader nodded and said, Blueprint magic weapon, the elf owes you an arrow. On the way back to the village, the sound of horse hooves mixed with the buzzing of bowstrings, and the sunset lengthened the shadows. Xingjie whispered, the conference hall is in the central fortress. We will set off tomorrow. Representatives from all ethnic groups will gather together. Your prophecy book is the protagonist. Ruoxi smiled, thinking in her heart, one day before the full moon, the alliance was formed, and the source of the disaster was close. But when night fell near the village, something changed suddenly. Green fire sprang up from the edge of the forest like a ghost, and undead vines exploded from the ground and wrapped around the horse's legs. Alan shot out a hail of arrows, but was swallowed up by a cloud of black mist. The corpse witch's roar echoed, "Curse of the Dark Lord, destroy before the meeting." In the chaos, an invisible assassin jumped out from the shadows and stabbed Ruoxi in the back of the heart. The prophecy was a scorching warning, but she couldn't get out of the way. The dagger slashed across her chest, and the smell of blood hit her nostrils. The field of vision was dark, and the shouts of allies were lengthened. Xingjie's sword light and Ping's summoned green light all turned into echoes in circles. Death is as swift as a knife, and this restart brings new pain. The crisis in the conference hall has flashed in my mind. The sunlight in the forest was dazzling. Ruoxi sat up suddenly, feeling a phantom pain in her chest like fire. This was the 6th round, and the chill of the assassination was still lingering in her bones, but she took a deep breath, and the fresh smell of earth quickly calmed down the chaos. 6 times, the dark forces have infiltrated the meeting, and assassins are the key. We can no longer be passive. This time we go straight to the fortress and perfect the blueprint defense array. An iron determination surged in her heart. From behind the scenes planning to frontline command, this transformation was like a sharp knife coming out of its sheath. She wanted to personally go into battle and control this climax. The prophecy book was opened, and a new page appeared, the blueprint of the conference hall, the formation runes that could block infiltration, and the demonstration of transforming the undead shocked all races. She went straight to Ember Village, where Ping and Xingjie were already waiting in the square. The familiarity of the circle made her get straight to the point. "Xingjie, Ping, the alliance meeting will be held tomorrow, and we will bring the perfect blueprint there. The prophecy evidence is complete, but the infiltration of darkness will cause chaos. I foresee an assassination, and I will practice defensive formations from now on." Xingjie raised his brows and tapped the hilt of his sword. "Girl, your eyes seem to have changed. Okay, the team is expanded, the elf travel with the dwarves." Ping held her staff and nodded. "Tactically, I'm going to demonstrate transformation. The undead are used as props to prove that we can reverse the enemy's forces." The tacit understanding between the three deepened, and Ruoxi felt that cooperation was like gears meshing. Xingjie's leadership aura complemented her precognition, and Ping's summons became a key support. At night, the lights in the village flickered, and Ruoxi spread out the prophecy book in the center of the square, thinking about the defensive array blueprint. The runes surged like a galaxy, and she sketched it on the stone slab with charcoal, a circular formation, with light crystals and tree spirit runes embedded on the edges, and a prophecy book at the core. When triggered, the barrier spreads, sealing the assassin's shadow. The pages of the book buzzed, the formation took shape, the silver light rippled like water waves, and the tentacles were warm but tough. "It's done, the divine weapon formation." She stood up and waved her hand to activate it. The air in the square froze, invisible ripples swept across, and even the wandering ghosts in the distance froze. Grum's dwarf craftsman whistled. "Little girl, this formation can block the mid-level corpse wizard. I will strengthen the materials and bring them to the conference hall tomorrow morning." Xingjie patted his shoulder. "From behind the scenes to the front line, you have become a commander. Tomorrow, I will push the decision and you will fulfill the prophecy." Ping whispered, "When I demonstrate the transformation, the formation protects me to avoid panic." Early the next morning, the team set out. The road to the fortress was filled with dust, and the thumping of horses' hooves mixed with the rhythm of dwarves hammering. Rust and rosin were mixed in the air, and Elf Alan was exploring the path ahead, his bowstring humming softly. The central fortress stands like a giant beast, the stone walls are carved with alliance emblems, the conference hall is towering, and the flags are hunting. Ruoxi's heart beats faster. This is the midpoint, 50% progress, where the alliance is formed or destroyed. The inner monologue is brief: take control of the overall situation. From here on, I am no longer a pawn. Arriving at the hall door, the guards gave way and representatives of various races gathered: human paladins, elf elder Isabella, dwarf king Grum, and even the fringe orc chiefs. There were candles burning in the hall, the air was as solemn as before a storm, and whispers were heard around the long table. The Dark Lord has resurrected, and various tribes are fighting among themselves. Why not stabilize the border first? Isabella said, her voice clear and clear. Groom said gruffly, the dwarven mines have been dug out by the undead, and we need to join forces to strike iron. Xingjie stood up and pushed, the meeting decided to form an alliance to fight against the enemy. Ruoxi, evidence. Ruoxi stepped forward, carrying a blueprint scroll and a prophecy book, and said in a loud voice, Elders of all races, a catastrophe will break out at the full moon, and the undead will pour out from the ruins, swallowing the forests and mineral veins first. The prophecy book is not a lie, look at the image. The page of the book is turned, and a blood-red scene emerges, green flames sweep across the continent, the figure of the Dark Lord is looming, and the smell of decay seems to hit your nose. The representatives gasped, and the orc chief roared, our tribe has lost 3 villages. Ruoxi then unfolded the blueprint, the design of divine weapons strengthens the weapons of all tribes. Bows and arrows explode, hammers absorb demons, and shields seal shadows. Cooperate, I draw make it, you forge it. Grum's eyes lit up, this skill is invincible with the dwarf furnace. Isabella nodded, the elves and tree spirits can be melted, and the power is doubled. Saint Jie said, lead the human army and fight against the source. The atmosphere is getting warmer and calls for resolution are rising. But there was a sudden turning point, the shadows in the corner of the hall squirmed, a black mist sprang out, the assassin's figure emerged, and the dagger stabbed Isabella in the back of the heart. Chaos broke out, representatives screamed and scattered, dwarf hammers smashed into the air, and elven arrows shot randomly. Infiltration. Dark spy. Xingjie drew his sword to block the blow, blood splashed on the long table, and the smell of rust filled the air. Ruoxi's mind flashed back to the previous memory, the assassin was hiding among the guards, shadowing from the east. Xingjie, east wall. Ping, summon the road closure. She shouted, leaping from behind the scenes to the front line, holding the prophecy book and activating the formation. The blueprint runes shone brightly, the silver light spread like a net, ripples swept through the hall, the assassin froze in mid-air, and the black mist disintegrated. More shadow undead emerged from the cracks in the ground, green fire danced wildly, and the representatives retreated in panic. The undead have entered the hall. Grum smashed one with his hammer, causing bone fragments to fly. Ruoxi commanded with her fingers, Alan, seal the east gate with arrows. Grum, Elder Hammer Protector. Saint, clean up in close combat. She stepped forward personally and pierced the core of a corpse with her dagger. The green fire was extinguished, and she was excited by the cold touch, the blood on the front line burned like fire. From planning to fighting, this breakthrough made her feel as comfortable as a commander. Xingjie cooperated tacitly, and the sword light intertwined with her formation to block the second wave of assassinations. Ruoxi, your formation saved the meeting. He gasped, his eyes full of trust. The crisis subsided slightly, but the panic in the hall did not dissipate. The representatives retreated to the corner, and the orc chief roared, this is your alliance. The undead have infiltrated. There was another twist, and Ping stepped forward to demonstrate transformation to resolve doubts. Everyone, watch out. The undead are not irreversible, we can turn them to our own use. She held the crystal core, the green light bloomed, and she silently summoned, the remaining ghosts appeared in the hall, and the bone claws clicked. The representatives exclaimed, and Isabella drew her bow, Summoner, you are playing with fire. The green fire reflected her face red, and panic spread like wildfire. A dwarf guard swung his hammer at Ping and shouted, Traitor! Ping's face turned pale, the backlash was looming, and the ghost lost control and threw itself at the long table. Ruoxi, help me stabilize. Ruoxi's heart tightened, this was a test, to control the overall situation and pull back from the chaos. She jumped onto the long table, the prophecy book buzzed into the blueprint fragments, and her mind connected with Ping's crystal core. Obey my command. Transform. The voice penetrated the noise, as loud as thunder, the blue light spread, the ghost's green fire turned blue, and he knelt down to obey, his chest pulsing like an army on standby. The hall was silent, and the smell of broken bones still filled the air, but the panic turned into shock. Ping gasped and stood firm. It became, "Your command," and the backlash was stabilized. Ruoxi looked directly at everyone, her inner growth surged like a tide, from resolving a small crisis to commanding the entire crowd. This leader felt like a crown, and she no longer flinched. "Look, all races. This is the transformation technique. The undead army can be used by us. Blueprint plus summoning, the alliance is invincible. The infiltration of the Dark Lord is a warning, but we have broken it. Before the full moon, gather the troops and go straight to the source of the ruins." Xingjie stepped forward to support. Ruoxi said it. Yes, humans, elves, dwarves, and orcs unite to fight against the enemy. Resolution passed. Isabella drew back her bow and her eyes became warm. Green Arrow obeys the order. The elves believe the prophecy. Grum laughed. The dwarf hammer will accompany you. The orc chief nodded. The tribe has joined. The lights in the conference hall were lit again, flags were hunted, and the alliance was formed like the rising sun. But the prophecy book trembled slightly, and a new page loomed, the countdown to the full moon, and the Dark Lord deep in the ruins roared and moved. Ruoxi held the book tightly, looked out the window at the night, and thought, 50%, the climax has passed, and the counterattack is in hand. Xingjie whispered, "Commander, you will take the lead in the next battle." Ping smiled, "Tactical support is available at any time." Outside the hall, the wind howled, the faint knocking of military boots, and the smell of war hit his face. The remaining warmth of the conference hall still filled the air, the flags were ringing, and the footsteps of representatives of various ethnic groups as they dispersed were like war drums tapping the stone slabs. Ruoxi stood by the long table, the heat of the prophecy book against her chest like a heartbeat. She took a deep breath, and the mixed smell of rust and rosin made her alert. Saint Jia approached, tapping the table with the hilt of his sword, his eyes as sharp as a hawk. "Commander, the alliance has been established, but empty talk is useless. The full moon counts down for 1 week, and the border fortress is the outpost of the undead. If you hold it there, the army will be stuck. Send troops tomorrow, and you will take the lead." Ping came over from the side, the green light on the staff pulsed slightly, she grinned, her face under the cloak was still stained with sweat from the demonstration. "Tactical support is online at any time. Ruoxi, your formation stabilized the chaos in the hall. This time I summon the undead team can be used as cannon fodder to explore the road. With the transformation spell and blueprint, the undead become ours." Alan and Groom also nodded, and the elf archer whispered, "Green Arrow obeys the order." The dwarf craftsman said gruffly, "I will forge iron for you, and the magic soldiers will take care of it." Ruoxi nodded, feeling a surge of heat in her heart, crawling out of the chaos of the meeting. She was now at the core. This is not luck, it is the accumulation of 7 cycles. She opened the prophecy book, and the outline of the fortress appeared on the page, surrounded by gray and black stone walls, lined with green fire towers, and the underground crystal core pulsed like a heart. The weak point of the fortress is at the south gate. Most of the undead guards are mid-level corpse witches, but there are traps. Xingjie, you recommend the overall strategy. Ping, summon the chaotic enemy formation. I will strengthen the equipment and conduct aerial reconnaissance first. When everyone dispersed, the night wind howled, and a low roar was faint in the distance. She held the book tightly, thinking, the first battle proves that the alliance is not just an arm's-length talk. In the early morning of the next day, the alliance army set off, with the muffled sound of horse hooves mixed with the rough rhythm of dwarf war songs in the flying dust. The smell of decay is getting stronger in the air, and the cliffs of the border wilderness stand like the backbone of a giant beast. Ruoxi rides at the head of the team, the prophecy book in her arms buzzes. She has drawn the first batch of blueprints, strengthened arrows embedded with tree spirit talismans, exploding green flames to absorb demons after being shot. Xingjie's sword team is equipped with a shield array to block corrosive waves. Grum's hammer soldiers are equipped with fire crystal blasts to smash bone walls. Ping was in the back hall, holding the crystal core tightly, and whispered to Ruoxi, "Summon 10 transformed skeletons as vanguards to detect traps. But the corpse which has strong backlash, so I have to control them at close range." Saint Jia rode his horse side by side, his armor flashing, strategically, outflank from the east wing, and attack from the south gate. Alan's archers suppress the tower, and the dwarves break the wall. The Dark Lord's men are cunning, so don't be careless. Ruoxi nodded and glanced at the military formation: human paladins, elven green arrows, dwarf hammers, and a few orc warriors, a total of 200, and their morale was like fire. But the image in the prophecy book flashed with hidden worries. There was an ambush underground in the fortress. She suppressed her uneasiness and said, "Stay in formation, the aerial soldiers will arrive later." The outline of the fortress gradually emerged, green fire swayed on the stone walls, and the corpse witch's roar echoed like the howling wind. In front of the south gate, the undead patrol made a clicking sound, and the bone claws scratched the ground and raised dust. Ruoxi shouted, "Attack!" Alan's arrow rain was the first to pour out, and the intensified arrows buzzed in the air. They sank into the tower and exploded with green flames. The green fire extinguished dozens of skeletons, and the smell of burning was tangy. Ping waved her staff, green light spread, and 10 transformed skeletons sprang out. The skeletons were wrapped with blue vines, and they smashed open the iron gate of the south gate. The cracking sound was as loud as thunder. The holy swordsman charged, the shield formation flashing with silver light, blocking the corrosive rain from the corpse witch's ball, and the sour smoke filled the front of the army. "Advance the left wing," he roared, and the human knight swung his sword to chop off the bones, causing blood, flesh and bone fragments to fly. Ruoxi followed up, with the blueprint turning in her mind. She injected her thoughts into the prophecy book, and blessed Grum's hammer soldiers with blasting talismans, smash the wall. The dwarf roared, and the red-hot hammer hit the stone wall. The stone wall cracked, and the heat wave hit his face like a furnace. The green fire in the fortress was strong, corpse witches were swarming, and the battle situation was like a tidal wave. But there was a sudden turning point. Deep in the south gate, the ground cracked silently, and countless bone spurs burst out from the ground like a forest of spears. The prophecy book warned too late. Ruoxi's shield shattered for a moment, and a bone spur penetrated the horse's belly. She rolled down to the dust, and the pain was as intense as fire. Ping's summons disintegrated, the transformed skeletons counterattacked, and the green fire turned crazy and rushed toward her side. Trap! Underground crystal core array. Saint Jia shouted, his sword flashing wildly to block the stabbing, but Alan fell to the ground after being hit by an arrow, with green blood staining his bow. Grum's hammer broke, and the dwarf screamed. The corpse witch took advantage of the chaos to blast the magic ball, and the green flames were engulfed in front of Ruoxi's eyes, and the chill of death was like a wave. It was a tragic defeat. The Alliance's first battle, this is it. Amidst the buzzing, Ruoxi opened her eyes suddenly. The sunlight in the forest was mottled, and the prophecy book trembled slightly in her hand. This was the 8th round, and the pain of the bone spurs was still causing phantom pain, but she gasped and stood up, and the smell of earth made her panic turn into calm. The 8th time, the trap is a crystal core formation, an ambush underground. You can't rush hard, you have to be in the air. A spark of wisdom surged in my heart. Extracting from setbacks is not to repeat mistakes, but to adapt. She went straight to the village, where Xingjie and Ping were already practicing in the square. The familiarity of the circle made her get straight to the point. Xingjie, Ping, change your strategy in the first battle. The underground traps in the fortress of the undead are strong, ground attacks are useless, and they are outflanked from the air. The blueprint is upgraded, and aerial wingsuits are given to archers. Ping, your summons are equipped with wing landings to transform the inside. Xingjie raised his brows, but nodded. Girl, you climbed up from a tragic defeat, your adaptability. Okay, I will use a strategy to feign an attack on the east wing to divert the crystal core formation. Grum reinforced wingsuit material. Ping held the staff and was excited. Control the undead at high altitude, with a wide field of vision and less backlash. I practiced the stabilization technique last night, and 10 became 20. Ruoxi smiled and had a brief inner monologue. Frustration is a teacher, and I am a tactician. The army is reorganized to fight again tomorrow. The blacksmith's furnace in Grum was blazing, and the smell of soot hit his nostrils. He knocked on the winged suit with his rough hands. Little girl, this thing flies like a bird. The wind spirit talisman melts iron and is as light as a feather. Ruoxi tested one, and the wing membrane unfolded, quivering slightly when the wind blew. She jumped up and tried to fly. The air roared against her face, and her field of vision was as wide as an eagle. The prophecy book buzzes, and new runes are unlocked. Transformation in the air, blue light descending from high, and the obedience rate of the undead doubled. It's done. She landed, and Xingjie patted her shoulder. The Alliance believes in you, we will definitely win this time. The border wilderness was dusty again, and the team headed straight for the fortress. This time, Ruoxi led the air wing. Alan and other elf archers unfolded their wingsuits, like green shadows flying across the sky. The wind howled and arrows shot. The saints on the ground pretended to attack the east wing, and the sword team rushed to the wall, causing the corpse witches to divide their troops. Come on, monster. The underground bone spurs exploded, but they were missed. There was no trace in the sky. Behind Ping Palace, the crystal core brightened. Summon, wings down. Green light flew into the sky. 20 transformed skeletons jumped off the wings. The bone wings spread out and smashed into the fortress, confusing the enemy formation. Ruoxi swooped down to the south gate, firing arrows from the blueprint. The wingsuit allowed her to dodge the magic balls flexibly. The arrows exploded with green flames to absorb demons, and the green flames of the tower were half extinguished. Clean the left tower, she shouted, and Alan cooperated. Arrows rained down like rain, and broken bones fell like snow. Grum's ground broke through the wall, hammer blasts rolled in, and the dwarves roared. The iron gate is shattered. But the turning point came again. At the core of the fortress, the dark crystal core pulsed violently, and a giant corpse king sprang out, waving its bone arm to summon a wave of ghosts, and the green mist filled the air, swallowing several people in the wing. Alan fell, and his screams echoed. Ping's summons backfired, and green fire rushed around in the sky. Ruoxi, the crystal core is too strong and cannot sustain the transformation. Ping shouted, her voice trembling in the wind. Ruoxi's heart tightened, and she rolled in the air to avoid the bone arm. The prophecy book gave a scorching warning. Core protection, transformation requires the same principle. She took a deep breath, and her inner transformation was like lightning. The undead were not monsters, but remnant souls, victims of a curse. Like me, stuck in a loop. Her thoughts were injected into the book, and the blue light spread from the winged suit and directly connected to the corpse king's crystal core. Listen to me, it's not an order, it's relief. The voice penetrated the green mist, like warm current flowing into an ice cave. Ping assisted in stabilizing. The crystal core connected her summons. The green fire slowly turned blue, the ghost wave froze, and the chest pulsed in compliance. The corpse king knelt down, his skeleton creaking. The transformation was successful. The group of undead in the fortress followed suit. All the green fire was extinguished, and the blue light army took shape. Ruoxi landed, her steps as steady as a rock when she touched the ground. She approached the corpse king's remnant soul, feeling the same in her heart. They also want to be free, and I give them a purpose. Ping gasped and stepped forward, patting her on the shoulder. Stable, your empathy makes the transformation effortless. 20 becomes 50, this legion is ours. Xingjie rushed in, sheathed his sword, and laughed loudly. The fortress has fallen. The Alliance's first victory. Ruoxi, the undead team you lead, support me to assemble. The elven forest, the dwarf mineral veins, all come here. The smoke and dust from the battlefield gradually dispersed, and the blue light undead knelt down to wait. The burning smell in the air receded, and the new blue light hit the nostrils. Ruoxi looked at the transformation army and thought, from fear to control, this is my power. The full moon is counting down, and the source of the ruins is near. In the distance, there was a faint roar, and the sound of Xingjia's horse hooves sounded the call for backup, and the flames of war were coming like a tide. The stone walls of the fortress are still emitting faint blue embers, and the transformed undead army is kneeling and waiting, and the sound of rattling bones echoes in the wilderness like a deep war drum. Ruoxi stood on a high slope, the wind rolled up her hair, mixed with the smell of burnt decay and the crispness of new blue light. She watched Saint Jia riding away, the flag of support hunting in the dust, and she felt an unprecedented sense of relief in her heart. The alliance was no longer empty talk, this was her battlefield, and the undead turned from enemies to friends, proving that she could reverse fate. Ping, take the transformation army back to the village and train their formation. After the saints gather, we go straight to the core city. She turned to Ping and said with unquestionable determination in her voice. Ping nodded, waved her staff, and blue light connected the undead groups, and their skeletons stood up as neatly as an army. Understood, starting at 50, I'll try to expand the upper limit. These guys are much more obedient, and your transformation has made them look like veterans. She grinned, her eyes under the cloak sparkling with excitement, and turned around to lead the retreat, her footsteps making a crisp sound on broken bones. Ruoxi followed, the prophecy book warmed slightly in her arms. She recited, "Next crisis," silently, and a blurry image appeared on the page, the Alliance's core city, Iron Glory Castle, with tall towers, green fire rising from the ground like a snake, a black shadow clone roaring, and magic ripples twisting the air. The clone of the Dark Lord, attacks before the full moon. The target is the parliament in the castle. She murmured, her horse's hooves accelerated, thinking, we can't wait. To expand the production of divine weapons, defense is the key. Taihui Castle is located in the heart of the mainland, with stone walls like giant dragons entrenched, surrounded by a moat, and the river water reflects the sunset like blood. When the Alliance army arrived, the city gates were wide open, and the dwarf craftsman Grum was already busy in the inner blacksmith area. The fire was roaring, the smell of soot hit his nose, and the rhythm of hammering was like a heartbeat. "Little girl, here we come. Saint Jia said that we are going to expand production. Show me the blueprint of the magic weapon." Grum yelled in a rough voice, his beard covered with iron filings. He swung his hammer and smashed down a reinforced shield, causing sparks to fly and heat waves to billow. Ruoxi unfolded the prophecy book and poured her thoughts into the defense divine weapon upgrade. The arc of the shield was reinforced, embedded with anti-magic crystals, and blue light runes were engraved on the edge, which could absorb the magic power of the clone and transform it into a barrier. Runes surged as she sketched them on the anvil with charcoal, the pages buzzed, and the blueprint took shape like three-dimensional light and shadow. "Grum, this is an anti-clone design. The clone magic is strong, but you are afraid of the backlash of the crystal core. Your furnace melts the tree spirit talisman, produces 50 faces, and equips the front line first." The dwarf came closer, eyes narrowed. Lost anti-magic. "I'll try it." He grabbed the blueprint and struck with the hammer. The iron was red-hot and twisted, gradually forming a shield shape, and the tentacles were cold but full of tension. The first shield came out. Grum handed it to Ruoxi. "Try it, the magic resistance will be doubled." She raised her shield and waved it, ripples of silver light spread, and the faint magic ripples in the air were sucked in and turned into blue light. "It's done. Supervise production, work overtime at night, 200 before the full moon." Ruoxi nodded, feeling a sense of accomplishment in her heart. From drawing to supervision, this technological progress is like her wings, taking the Alliance to leap forward. Groom laughed, "The dwarf listens to you. But the materials are tight, and the mineral veins near the ruins have to be grabbed." During the interaction, she patted him on the shoulder. "Cooperate and produce information in exchange for information." The dwarf nodded, and his eyes changed from rudeness to admiration. At the same time, Pingzheng was training the undead army on the school field outside the city. The blue light skeletons lined up in a square array, holding shields with their bone claws, clicking forward, and the dust raised a clear light mixed with blue light. Turn left. Listen to Ruoxi's formation, defensive circle. Ping shouted, the staff pulsed with green light, and her thoughts were injected into the crystal core, trying to expand the summons. They started at 50 and gradually increased to 60. The vines on the skeleton became denser and their movements were coordinated like a living person. But suddenly, backlash loomed, the green fire flickered for a moment, and the skeleton froze, waving its claws randomly. Damn, the upper limit is stuck. Ping gritted her teeth, sweat dripping down and feeling cold to the touch. After hearing the news, Ruoxi rushed over and held her shoulders. Ping, hold on. Your summons has broken through the bottleneck. Add a blueprint stabilizing talisman. She turned over the book and poured her thoughts into Ping's crystal core to carve a talisman for Ping's crystal core. The core is embedded with tree spirits to reduce backlash and expand the upper limit to 100. The pages of the book buzzed and the crystal core heated up. Ping took a deep breath and silently thought about expansion. The green light flourished, 80, 90, hundreds of undead sprang out, the blue fire unified, and the formation was like an iron wall. Breakthrough. Ruoxi, your talisman allows me to control them. These guys are elites now. Ping said excitedly, hugging her for a moment, and the relationship deepened like sisters. Ruoxi smiled, the teams complement each other, you train them, and I strengthen the equipment. After Xingjie returns, the council's defense will be stable. When night falls, Taihui Castle is brightly lit, and the fire reflects the red city wall. Ruoxi inspected the forging area. The sound of Grum's hammer continued, shields piled up like mountains, and the mixed smell of rust and blue light hit her nostrils. On Ping's school grounds, the undead army practiced until late at night, and the sound of bones rubbing together echoed like a whisper. Sanjie's backup has arrived. Elf archers and orc warriors have mixed in, and morale is high. Commander, the council will meet tomorrow to report on production. Xingjie came over, his armor still stained with wilderness dust, and his smile was tired but determined. Ruoxi nodded, there are hundreds of shields and hundreds of undead armies. The clone attack is predicted in the council, and the magic interference is strong, so we take the initiative to set up the formation. Xingjie touched the hilt of the sword, moving from defense to attack. Okay, I will lead the knights to patrol the border. During the interaction, she felt that his trust was as reliable as a shield, and warmth flashed in her heart. These people are already her love and cannot be lost. But there was a sudden turning point. In the Parliament Hall, representatives of all ethnic groups gathered together, candlelight flickered, and the air was as solemn as before a storm. Elder Isabella said, the Alliance won the first victory, but the clone of the Dark Lord has appeared, and the intelligence said that Ironhui Castle is the target. Before he finished speaking, green fire exploded on the roof of the hall, and the black shadow clone descended, like a giant beast condensed with smoke, roaring and deafening, and magic ripples distorted the space. The representatives screamed and scattered, Groom swung his hammer to block a black claw, and iron filings flew. Alan shot an arrow, but it was bounced away by ripples, and the bowstring broke with a crisp sound. Clone. Magic field interference. Ruoxi shouted, the prophecy book was as hot as fire, her thoughts were injected into the blueprint, the shield array was activated, and the silver light spread to block the first wave of magic. However, the clone magic was so strong that the time in the hall seemed to lengthen and the vision blurred. There was a loud buzzing in Ruoxi's mind, and the memory fragments collapsed, the first aid experiences poured out like an hourglass, and the chill of death struck early. No. The curse interferes. She knelt down with a splitting headache. The pages of the prophecy book were trembling, and the runes were floating in the wind. Xingjie rushed to protect her. Ruoxi, hold on. But the claws of the black shadow swept across, ripples of magic engulfed the hall, and the representatives fell to the ground, their faces reflected in the green fire. Ruoxi's vision was dark, and she died quickly. Interference. Is the cycle locked? The chill receded like an iron pincer, and Ruoxi suddenly sat up. The sunlight in the forest was dazzling, and the prophecy book was cold and dull in her hand. This is the restart of the 8th cycle, but only fragments of memory remain, and interference is like shackles. Clone magic, locked my experience. She gasped, the smell of earth hit her nose, and the panic in her heart was like wildfire, but she gritted her teeth and stood up, holding the book tightly. Will like a hammer, smashing into the fog, I am not a victim, this is a test. Break through it. Thoughts surged, the pages trembled, and new runes loomed, the core of anti-magic, drawn with spirit. She concentrated, flashing back to the fragments in her mind, shields, undead, allies. From passive defense to active, she murmured, this time, I attack the source. Growth was like a fire igniting, and her mental tenacity made her feel like steel being reborn. She went straight to Ironshine Castle, this time into the forging area, where Grom was still banging the hammer. Good morning, little girl. Where is the blueprint? Ruoxi spread her book, upgraded, anti-magic weapon. The clone interfered with the circle, and I broke through, core rune, absorbing magic and turning power. She sketched, the blade is embedded with an anti-ripple rune, which spreads waves of will when swung, breaking interference. Groom's eyes lit up, weapon of will. I'm here. The hammer struck continuously, and the first sword came out of the furnace, its tentacles as warm as a heartbeat. Ruoxi tried to swing, the silver light swept across, and the air rippled and shattered. It's done. Production will be doubled, and St. Jie's sword will be strengthened first. In Ping's school field, she shared her breakthrough. Ping, the clone interference is strong. Your summons is added with a counterattack talisman to expand the upper limit. Ping nodded, held the crystal core to test, hundreds of undead reappeared, and the blue fire was as stable as a rock. Your will has been passed on to me. I can control it. Now it's 150. As the interaction deepened, Ruoxi patted her on the back and said, let's defend the fort together. When Xingjie came back, she handed over the enhanced sword. Xingjie, this sword breaks interference and is for use by the council. He tried swinging it and exclaimed in his eyes, Commander, you have changed, from defense to attack. The parliament reconvened, the shadow of the clone descended, and ripples of magic erupted. Ruoxi waved her sword in front, and the wave of will spread, the ripples shattered like glass, and the green fire retreated. Take the initiative. Ping, the undead sealed the hall. Grum, hammered through the shadows. Ping summoned 150 blue troops, the bone array was like a wall. Groom hammered the heat wave, and the black shadows wailed. Isabella's arrows cooperated with each other, and the hall was filled with smoke and dust, and the smell of decay filled the air. But there was a twist again, the clone's claws swiped at St. G, magic pierced the armor, and he fell to the ground, blood stained the long table, and the smell of rust hit his nostrils. Xingjie. Ruoxi's heart was as sharp as a knife, and she rushed over, the prophecy book humming and injecting a blueprint for treatment, runes for healing, embedded with life crystals, stopping bleeding and converting power. She held the wound while her thoughts surged, hold on. You can't fail, our alliance needs you. The inner monologue flowed like this, protecting the one you love is my determination. From self-preservation to protection, he is my pillar. Blue light penetrated and the wound healed. Xingjie opened his eyes and held her hand, thank you, your sword saved me. He stood up and swung the strengthened sword, breaking the core of the clone, the black shadow collapsed, and the green fire was extinguished. The silence in the hall turned to cheers. Ping stepped forward, breakthrough, your determination makes the summons stable. Grum laughed, double the output of divine weapons. Ruoxi helped Xingjie, and inner transformation emerged, mental tenacity, determination to protect, this is the fire of a hero. The full moon is approaching, the source of the ruins is roaring, and the smell of war is stronger in the wind. In the council hall of Iron Hui Castle, the cheers receded like a tide, the candlelight flickered and reflected the faces of the representatives of all races, and the embers of the green fire were still emitting light smoke on the stone slabs. Ruoxi helped Xingjie stand firm, the blue light of the strengthened sword gradually faded, and the air was filled with the smell of rust and scorched earth, making people breathless. She scanned the hall. Isabella's silver hair trembled slightly in the light. Grum wiped the black dust on the hammer, and the orc chief roared and nodded in confirmation. The clone is broken, but this is just the appetizer. Ruoxi spoke, her voice loud but tired. The countdown to the full moon is 3 days away, and the source of the summons from the dark territory must be removed. The Alliance army sets out and assembles at the east gate of Iron Hui Castle tomorrow morning. Xingjie gripped the hilt of the sword tightly, the blue light from the healing wounds still pulsating faintly on the armor. He looked directly at Ruoxi, the trust in his eyes as solid as iron. Commander, you have the final say. I coordinate the various races. The human knights will attack in the main, the elf archers will suppress the air, the dwarf hammers will break the formation, the orc warriors will flank the formation, and Ping's undead army will serve as the vanguard. The backup will follow from the castle, and the magic weapon production will work overtime to destroy the source before the full moon. Isabella nodded, and the green arrow guards were ready. The forest's tree spirit talismans are melting. Enter the blueprint and the elves obey. Grum laughed roughly and patted the anvil. I'll build a big fort for you. Upgrade the blueprint and smash those piles of bones. Ping approached from the side, tapping the staff on the ground, and the blue light reflected her face. The army of the undead has reached 200, and the transformation is stable. Ruoxi, your will talisman allows me to control it, and I will fight with you at the climax. Ruoxi's heart felt warm. These people went from strangers to side by side, and the pain of the cycle turned into strength. She opened the prophecy book, and the page buzzed with the outline of the dark territory. Deep in the desolate plain, ruins swallowed up light like black holes. The source of summons was the underground crystal core jungle, and the green fire was like the pulsation of the heart. The source is hidden in the heart of the ruins. If you break it, the army will be wiped out. But the curse will counterattack, illusion and penetration. We have to be vigilant. The inner monologue is like lightning. After 8 restarts, I am no longer afraid of the curse, it is my weapon. When everyone dispersed, the night wind howled, a low roar was faintly heard outside the castle, and the omen of the full moon hung in the sky like a blood moon. Early the next morning, the Alliance army set off like a long dragon. Dust was flying at the east gate, and the thumping of horse hooves mixed with the rough rhythm of dwarf war songs. The smell of decay in the air is getting stronger and stronger, and the cliffs in the wilderness stand like the bones of giant beasts. Ruoxi rides at the head of the team, the prophecy book in her arms is slightly warm. She has upgraded the blueprint to a large-scale weapon, a mobile turret, with an iron frame embedded with fire crystals and tree spirit talismans. It has a long range, explodes with green flames like rain, and is designed to break through the crystal core jungle. The dwarf craftsman of Grum pushed the cross turret in front. The wheels creaked as they ran through the mud, and heat waves hit their faces from the furnace mouth. Little girl, one shot of this cannon will blow up half of the bone forest. Grum roared, the iron filings on his beard flashing. The mixed army is spectacular. Saint Jia leads 300 human paladins, their swords and shields flash with blue light. Alan's elf archers, 200, spread out their wings like green shadows flying in the sky. Grum's dwarf hammers, 100, carrying a blasting hammer as heavy as a mountain. Orc warriors, 50, roaring with sharp claws. Ping's transformed undead army, 200, with neat skeletons, blue fire pulsating like loyal guards. Ruoxi waved her hand, stay in formation. Xingjie, feign attack on the east wing to lure the enemy. Ping, the undead explore the way. Aerial archers suppress the tower. Position the fort behind, and blast when the source is close. Xingjie rode side by side, with a sonorous voice, all races obey the order, the alliance is one. Destroy the source, save Aldia. The military formation advanced, green fire loomed in the wind, and the edge of the dark territory swallowed the horizon like ink. Deep into the plain, green flames burst out from the cracks in the ground, the air is as sticky as a tomb, and the footsteps click on the dead bones. Ping's undead vanguard smashed through the first bone wall, the blue claws tore through the green fire, and the broken bones flew with a burning smell. The crystal core jungle ahead, the source pulse is strong. Ping shouted, the green light of the staff spread, and the transformation army poured in like a wave. Ruoxi nodded and poured her thoughts into the prophecy book, blessing the fort with runes, blueprint upgrade, releasing will waves when shooting, breaking the interference of illusions. The muzzle of Grum's gun was red and hot, and the first shot exploded. The green flame fell like a meteorite, exploding a cluster of crystal cores. The heat wave of the explosion hit his face. The green fire was extinguished for dozens of times, and the wail of the corpse which echoed. But there was a sudden turning point. In the center of the plain, the prophecy book was as hot as fire, Ruoxi's head was buzzing, and the surrounding scenery was distorted like water waves. In front of the military formation, a fantasy came, blood-red mist filled the air, and undead emerged from the ground in waves, but their faces actually looked like allies. Xingjie's sword stabbed her, Ping's staff summoned green fire to swallow the army, and Isabella's arrows shot down fellow elves. The soldiers screamed and scattered, the human knights slashed at each other with swords, the dwarf hammers smashed at the orcs, and chaos spread like wildfire. Illusion. Prophecy curse. Ruoxi shouted, kneeling down and holding the book, with a splitting headache, and the memory fragments were cut like knives. 9 times, this is the 9th cycle, and the pain of death strikes early. But she gritted her teeth and her inner panic turned into calmness. It's not true. Use your memory to break it. She closed her eyes, and thoughts rushed into the book, and fragments of 9 cycles emerged like a galaxy, the first helpless forest, the second village fall, the 8th parliament clone. Every death is the key to growth. The runes buzzed, and blue light spread from the book, sweeping across the illusion. The fog receded and the illusion collapsed. Xingjie's corpse turned into a remnant soul, and Ping's green fire turned blue. She shouted, transform. These are the remnant souls of the source, not the enemy. Waves of will flowed through the crystal core jungle, and the green fire slowly turned blue. Hundreds of high-level ghost kings knelt down in obedience, and their bone wings spread out like military flags. The army was shocked, and Xingjie gasped and stepped forward. Ruoxi, you broke the curse? She stood up, the book was as warm as an old friend. It's not breaking, it's using. The prophecy turned from a curse to a weapon, and I am the one who controls it. The inner transformation was like a fire, from fear to embracing it. This is the pinnacle, from victim to master. The morale is high, the Ghost King is transformed and joins the Legion, the blue fire flourishes, and the plains are like a blue sea. The fort roared, green flames rained down, the crystal core jungle collapsed, and the source pulse was weakened by 1/3. Groom laughed, ha, magic weapon plus transformation, invincible. Alan's arrow rain in the air combined with the ghost wings shot through the remaining corpse witch, and the broken bones fell like snow. But there was another twist. Ping suddenly froze, the green light of her staff flashing uncertainly. She turned around and waved her staff at the military formation, and the blue fire undead actually reversed the green flames and rushed towards Xingjie. Ping! What are you doing? Xingjie drew his sword to block one, blood splattered on his armor, and the smell of rust hit his nostrils. The soldier roared, betrayal. The summoner is accused. Isabella drew her bow and aimed at Ping, the green arrow flashed with cold light, explain, or shoot through. Chaos broke out, the orc warriors' minions were unsheathed, the dwarf hammer was raised, and internal conflicts were ignited like a powder keg. Ruoxi's heart was as sharp as a knife, and memories flashed through her mind. Ping's smile, her tactical support, from comrades to sisters, this suspicion was like a poisonous sting. Stop! It's not betrayal. She jumped forward, held Ping's shoulders, and the prophecy book buzzed past. An illusion appeared, the residual magic power from the source spun a web, and green shadows flickered in Ping's eyes, allowing her to summon the enemy. But in reality, she was resisting the backlash, dripping with sweat and feeling hot to the touch. Ruoxi. I can't control it, the source is pulling me. Ping gasped, her voice trembling, blue fire intertwined with green flame. There were whispers in the military formation, and Xingjie frowned, prove it, Ping. There is no room for doubt in the alliance. Ruoxi took a deep breath, and her inner monologue was brief but firm. Trust is not evidence, it is unconditional. Her thoughts were injected into the book, and the blueprint runes connected Ping's crystal core. The anti-illusion spell wave spread, and the green shadow disintegrated like broken glass. Ping, listen to me. You are my pillar. From the forest to now, we break the curse together. Transform it and share the backlash with me. Will is like a bridge, the light of the book penetrates into Ping's body, all the green flames turn blue, and the undead army returns to obedience. Ping opened her eyes, held her staff steady, and hugged Ruoxi for a moment. Thank you. Illusion took advantage of the loophole, I almost believed it. The military formation was silent and cheered. Xingjie sheathed his sword and patted Ping on the shoulder. The doubts are gone, and the alliance is stronger. Isabella drew back her bow. The elves believe in me. Grum smiled crudely. Ha, keep hitting the source. The crisis was resolved. Ruoxi's leadership shined like its peak. She waved, go forward. The heart of the source is close, the forts are fully open. The legion reorganized, 300 blue fire undead, the ghost king's wings covered the sky, the forts roared and shook the ground, most of the crystal core jungle collapsed, and the green fire roared like a defeated dog. But the prophecy book trembled slightly, and a new page loomed. The core of the source protected the Dark Lord's body, and the final conflict broke out on the night of the full moon. Ruoxi knew in her heart that it was 75% and this counterattack was just a prelude. The wind howled in the plains, and the ruins in the distance towered in shadow. The aura of war surged in. Xingjie whispered, Commander, we will fight with you in the final battle. The wind of the plain howls like a wild beast, rolling up broken bones and ashes. The edge of the dark territory has turned into a sea of blue fire. The skeleton of the transformed undead army flashes in the night, and the sound of advancing is like the tide knocking on the earth. Ruoxi rode her horse forward, the heat of the prophecy seeping into her skin through her clothes. She glanced at Xingjie beside her. His enhanced sword glowed blue in the moonlight, and the scars were still aching, but she could not hide the determination in his eyes. Commander, we will fight with you in the final battle. His words are still echoing in his ears. Now the legion is approaching the ruins fortress. The black shadow is like a giant beast occupying the horizon, and the green fire tower is like the eye of the devil, pulsing with a low roar. Xingjie, Ping, form a commando team. Ruoxi ordered in a low voice, her voice as firm as iron in the wind. The main force is behind the formation, Grum's fort blocks the road, and Alan's aerial archers cover it. The three of us go straight to the core altar and destroy the source of the summons. Tonight on the full moon, the Lord's body will appear, we can't give it a breather. Ping nodded, clenched her staff, and the blue light reflected her face. 300 undead army will be the vanguard, and I will control the transformed Ghost King to open the way. The backlash is stable, your will talisman makes me feel like I have eyes. Xingjie drew his sword, and the armor made a muffled sound when it rubbed. I will hold on to the rear, and the alliance will not break up. Commando, charge! The legions surged towards the fortress like a blue wave, the forts roared to the sky, the first green flame meteorite hit the tower, the heat wave of the explosion hit the face, the green fire shattered like fireworks, and the screams of the corpse which echoed in the night sky. The undead army smashed open the outer wall, and the bone claws tore through the iron grill. Debris flew and mixed with the stench of decay. The commando sneaked in from the flank, stepping on the slippery stone steps. The air was as sticky as the depths of a tomb, and the green fire reflected the ancient runes on the wall, faintly squirming like living creatures. Ruoxi was exploring the way ahead, and the prophecy book buzzed with warning. The guards exceeded expectations, hundreds of high-level undead guards, crystal core fusion lord magic power. Integrate the blueprints and prepare. She poured her thoughts into the book, and all the accumulated blueprints emerged like a galaxy, shield array, blasting arrows, and transformation talismans, fused into one, and the touch rushed into her mind like electricity. The inner hall of the fortress is like a bottomless abyss, with green fire chandeliers swaying and casting long shadows. Suddenly, the cracks in the wall burst open, and an unexpected guard sprang out, not an ordinary corpse witch, but a dark guard fused with the Lord's magic power. Their skeletons were wrapped in black mist, their claws flashed green like sickles, and magic fire danced wildly in their eye sockets. There were more than 500 in number, far exceeding the prophecy image. They roared and rushed towards them, the magic wave pressed like a tide, and the air twisted and made a sharp whistle. Ping waved her staff to summon, and the blue light spread to pull up the barrier. Damn, there are so many. Transformation Ghost King. 10 bone-winged behemoths descended, claws tore through the black mist, but the guard's magic power backfired, and the green flames swallowed 2 of them. The saint's sword flashed, blocking a wave of claw strikes, and the strengthened sword broke through the black fog. The smell of blood hit her nostrils. Ruoxi, retreat. This is not a small fight. But Ruoxi did not move. She knelt down and held the prophecy book tightly, and the memories revolving in her mind were intertwined like lightning, the pain of 9 deaths, the trial and error of every blueprint, from forest branches to the divine weapon turret. This accumulation is not a shackle, but the fuel for the peak. A flame of breakthrough surged in her heart, not just a simple accumulation of experience, but the ultimate innovation. She wanted to improvise the divine weapon of destruction, integrate everything, and reverse the desperate situation. Don't retreat. Ping, hold on to the barrier. Xingjie, protect me for 1 minute. Her voice penetrated the chaos and was as loud as thunder. The page of the book trembled wildly, and the runes surged like a storm. Ruoxi used a dagger to outline on the stone slab, the blueprint of the blade of destruction. The arc of the sword was like a dragon's spine, and the core was embedded with a complete set of blueprints, shields surrounding, blasting crystal core, transforming will, and anti-demon ripples, all integrated into one. Thoughts surged wildly, and she injected the essence of the circle, the tenacity of the first time, the empathy of the 8th time, and the trust of the 9th time. The book hums like a heartbeat, the lines glow and emerge, a giant sword slowly takes shape, the blade is intertwined with silver and black, the tentacles are hot but full of destructive tension, the air is torn when swung, and a low thunder is emitted. It has become the divine weapon of destruction. Ruoxi grabbed the hilt of the sword, stood up and swung it. The blue-black light wave spread and swept through the group of guards. The magic ripples shattered like glass, the black mist disintegrated, dozens of guard crystal cores exploded, the green fire went out like rain, and the smell of burning filled the hall. The group of guards froze, and the demonic fire dimmed. Ruoxi took advantage of the situation and rushed forward. Transform. Follow my will. The blue light of the divine weapon connected with Ping's summons, and all the green flames turned blue. Hundreds of dark guards knelt down and obeyed, and the black mist on their skeletons turned into blue vines, doubling their power. Ping gasped and stood still, her eyes lit up. Your innovation makes transformation like breathing. Now 500 become allies. Xingjie put away his sword and patted her shoulder. The ultimate innovator, from experience to peak, you led us to break through. Ruoxi held the magic weapon tightly, and her inner transformation was like a tide. I am no longer an accumulated student, I am a creator, weapons are born from books, and the battlefield is reshaped by me. This breakthrough made her feel as invincible as a divine weapon. Her footsteps stepped on broken bones, and the sound sounded like a song of victory. The commandos penetrated deep into the core of the fortress, and the stone steps slid downwards. The air became colder and colder, and the green fire faded, replaced by the pulsation of the blood-red altar. The altar is suspended like a giant heart, surrounded by a jungle of crystal cores. The black shadow of the Lord's body condenses in the fog, but the human form is twisted, and his eyes are like abyss. Traveler, Ruoxi, the holder of the prophecy book. The Lord's voice was like the whisper of thousands of ghosts, echoing in the hall, and the magic wave oppressed the air. Do you think it has been reversed? That book is my curse. The prophecy is destined to destroy Aldia. All your loops, growth, and allies are all webs weaved by me. On the night of the full moon, you will sacrifice the alliance with your own hands and become a servant of darkness. Look, the truth. The altar glowed red, and a phantom emerged. Ruoxi's every death was controlled by the Lord, the blueprint innovation was just a prophecy trap, the trust of allies would turn into a backstab, and the undead army would bite back and devour everything. Ping took a step back, her staff trembling. Ruoxi, this book is a trap. Xingjie stepped forward with his sword in hand, his eyes flickering with suspicion. It's impossible, but what if? The magic in the hall was like a tide, and the red light reflected everyone's faces, and panic crept into their hearts like a shadow. Ruoxi's heart beats like a drum, the prophecy book burns like fire, and the phantom cuts through her will like a knife. Is the beginning of the 10th circle actually the Lord's game? But she took a deep breath, and her inner monologue was brief and explosive. The truth is not a shackle, but a mirror. Lord, you spin the web and I tear it down. She raised the divine weapon of destruction, and the blue-black light wave pierced the altar. Wrong, Lord. The prophecy is not a destiny, but a guide. Every step of my cycle, from helplessness to innovation, is earned by me. The book is not your curse, it is my weapon. The trust of allies, the transformation of undead, and the fusion of blueprints are all proof of my reversal. You control death, I control destiny. Thoughts surged wildly, divine weapons hummed into the book, and reverse runes were unlocked. The prophecy page turned from red to blue, the phantom disintegrated like bubbles, the Lord's black shadow twisted and howled, and the magic wave came back to bite him. The crystal core of the altar cracked, the red light shattered, the green fire was completely extinguished, the transformation wave spread, the Lord's body froze, and the abyss eyes flashed with fear. It's impossible, you broke it. Ruoxi stepped forward and slashed with his sword. The blue light of the divine weapon engulfed the black shadow. The heat wave of the explosion hit his face. The fortress trembled like an earthquake. The gravel splashed and mixed with the sour smell of magic power. The remnant soul of the Lord roared, the full moon will revive. But the altar collapsed, the source of the summons was cut off, the green fire outside the army was all extinguished, and the blue light army cheered like thunder. Ping stepped forward and hugged Ruoxi, gasping, you reversed, from the heart of the savior, broke the prophecy. Xingjie sheathed the sword, his eyes full of admiration, Commander, the alliance has been saved. But the full moon resurrection that the Lord said. The final battle is on the eve, we have to return to Taihui Castle to reorganize the overall situation. Ruoxi held the magic weapon tightly, and her inner growth blossomed like a peak, from breaking personal destiny to awakening as a savior. I am no longer a time-traveling girl, but a guardian of Aldia. Outside the fortress, the legion's footsteps clicked, the blood of the full moon hung in the sky, a low roar was faint, and the breath of the eve of the war came like a tide. Xingjie whispered, you will command the overall situation, and we will follow. In the wind, blue fire pulsed, and the final prelude to the counterattack was beginning. The ruins of the fortress were still emitting blue smoke, and the full moon's bloody light hung in the night sky like a devil's eye, casting a strange red glow that reflected the ghostly light on the broken bones of the wilderness. Ruoxi stood on a high slope, the wind picked up the corners of her clothes, mixed with the echo of distant roars, and the prophecy book was as hot as her heart in her arms. She took a deep breath, and the rotten smell assaulted her nostrils. Xingjie's hoofbeats sounded behind her, and he stopped riding, the blue light of the strengthened sword reflecting red on his face. Commander, the entire army has been assembled. 300 knights, 200 archers, 100 dwarf hammers, 50 orcs, and 500 Ping's blue fire undead. The source is cut off, and the Lord's body is hidden in the ruins abyss, but the pulse of the full moon is strong, so we must fight quickly. Ruoxi nodded and scanned the military formation, the blue light undead knelt down like an iron wall and stood ready, Grum's fort wheels creaked as they crushed dead bones, Alan's elf wingsuit unfolded like a green shadow in the moonlight, and Isabella's elder robe made a hunting sound. Ping came from the flank, her staff pulsing with green light and her cloak covered with dust. Ruoxi, the upper limit of the transformation army has exceeded 300. The high-level Ghost King is the vanguard and can break the Lord's illusion. But the magic power of the abyss is strong, and the backlash will bite. Her voice was tired, but it revealed determined. Ruoxi patted her on the shoulder. You stay behind and stabilize the army, and I will lead the assault. The Lord wants to revive, and we smash it with the memory of the loop. A flash in his mind, this is the 10th time, this is the general attack, from the prelude to the ruins to the final showdown, I have to put an end to this land. All the troops obey the order. Ruoxi shouted, her voice piercing the howling wind, as loud as thunder. The blueprint weapons are all activated. The turrets block the road, the archers suppress it, the undead clear the way, the knights attack. Dark Lord, your time is over, Aldia is ours. The military formation burst into roars, the human war songs were rough, the elves hummed like the wind, the dwarves beat the rhythm like drums, and the orcs roared to shake the ground. The fort roared for the first time, and green flame meteorites rained down, hitting the entrance of the ruins. The black stone wall cracked, heat waves rolled on the face, debris flew and mixed with the sour smell of green fire. The blue fire undead charged, the bone claws tore apart the remaining guards, the transformation wave spread, more enemy troops knelt down and obeyed, and the clicking sound was like a symphony of victory. The commandos went straight to the entrance of the abyss. The stone steps spiraled downwards. The air became colder and damper. The blood-red runes on the walls writhed like living snakes. Ruoxi was in front, the divine weapon of destruction buzzed in his hand, blue-black light waves swept away the low-level undead, and the crackling sound of the magic ripples was as crisp as glass. Xingjie stood side by side, the Lord is playing tricks, illusions will come, don't believe your eyes. Behind Ping Dian, I feel the pulsation of the source, like a beating heart. Be ready for transformation. But there was a sudden turn. At the end of the abyss, the red light of the full moon shined, time was distorted like a whirlpool, the surrounding scenery was stretched and deformed, the footsteps of the military formation turned into echoes, and the light of Xingjie's sword was as slow as a snail. Time interference. Ruoxi's heart sank. The black shadow of the Lord appeared in the center of the altar, his human form twisted, and his abyssal eyes flickered in mockery. Traveler, your memory of the cycle is my gift. Now, I control time, and all your accumulation will flow backwards. Cheng Wu. Look, your ally dies first. The red light exploded, and the phantom reappeared. Ping's staff broke, Xingjie fell in a pool of blood, the Alliance army disintegrated like an hourglass, and the undead defenders sprang out from the four walls, and thousands of monsters fused with magic energy danced wildly around the commandos. The time vortex pulled, and Ruoxi felt that her memories were flowing backward like a tide. The 9th illusion and the 8th parliament were all turned into chaotic fragments. She staggered to her knees, the magic weapon almost losing her grip, and her headache felt like thousands of needles piercing her brain. No, this is the 11th circle. She gritted her teeth and murmured, struggling like a fire in her heart, the Lord wants to reset everything and make me start from the beginning? But multiple memories smashed open the fog like a hammer, the tree branches in the forest for the first time, the ambush in the village for the second time, and the pain of each death, all emerged like a galaxy. She took a deep breath, the smell of decay mixed with the crispness of blue fire. Wrong, Lord. Your interference is one way, my loop is multi-layered. Book of Prophecy, Counterattack. Thoughts surged into the book, the runes buzzed like a heartbeat, and blue light waves spread from the divine weapon, reversing the ripples of time. The vortex shattered, the phantom disintegrated, the defenders froze, and the green fire pulsed to expose their weaknesses. Transform. Use my memory to connect. Ruoxi shouted, waving the magic weapon. Blue and black light waves swept through thousands of troops, and the will talisman was like a net to capture the remaining souls, not an order, but resonance. She recalled Ping's tenacity and Xingjie's trust, and her inner transformation was like lightning. From a struggling prisoner to the master of time, I will reverse your web with my loop. The green fire of the defenders turned blue, thousands of giant beasts knelt down, their bone wings spread out like a blue sea, the magic power backfired on the Lord, and the black shadow twisted and wailed, it's impossible, your memory, how can it be multi-layered? Ping gasped and stepped forward, the green light of the staff spread to stabilize the transformation. Ruoxi, your counterattack made me control. These giant beasts now listen to us, the source is near. The saint's sword flashed, cutting off the remaining phantoms. Victory is in sight. Alliance army, advance. The fort outside roared like thunder, and the military formations surged in like a blue wave. Dwarf hammers smashed the walls, elves' arrows rained down, orc minions tore through green flames, battlefield smoke billowed, and the burning smell intertwined with the freshness of blue light. But there was a turning point again. At the core of the altar, the shadow of the Lord expanded, and the magic power exploded like a black tide, heading straight for the commandos. Xingjie rushed forward to block a claw attack, the strengthened sword shattered, the armor was torn, and blood spurted out like mist. He fell to the ground and groaned, "Ruoxi, go, break the source." "I'll block it." Ping waved her staff to summon a blue fire barrier, but was swallowed up by the black tide. Burning like fire, she screamed and knelt down, the staff broke, and the green light disintegrated. "Lord, pull me into the abyss, save me." The screams of her allies echoed in the hall, the red light reflected the red pool of blood, and the smell of rust hit her nose, making Ruoxi's heart twist like a knife. There were roars outside the military formation. Alliance soldiers witnessed it, and their morale was shaken. Grum shouted, "Commander! They can't hold on." Isabella drew her bow. Elves never abandon their friends, but the source. Ruoxi's head was buzzing, and the premonition of death climbed up her spine like a chill. The 11th cycle? No, it cannot be restarted. She pounced on Xingjie, held down the wound, and injected the blue light of the divine weapon into the treatment blueprint. The runes healed like a web. "Xingjie, hold on. You are not a shield, you are my pillar. From Ash Village to now, our alliance is strong because of you." The inner monologue surged like a tide. The crisis of sacrifice is not the end, but a test of dedication. I sacrifice everything for peace, no longer protecting myself. I am a leader, protecting this other world for the one I love. Blue light penetrated and the wound stopped bleeding. Xingjie opened his eyes and held her hand. "Commander. I stand up, the alliance will not fall." He stood up, the broken sword turned into a blue light, and contributed his last strength. The sword light stabbed the Lord's black shadow like an arrow, tearing a crack. Turning to Ping, Ruoxi hugged her, the prophecy book hummed with crystal cores, and the backlash wave rushed into her body like a green snake, but she gritted her teeth and shared the burden. "Ping, you are my eyes, from summoning to transformation, let's counterattack together. Dedicate yourself to this land." Will is like a bridge, blue light engulfs the green snake, Ping's staff reorganizes, green light shines Sheng. She stood up, tears flashing in her eyes. "Ruoxi, your dedication has made me reborn. Look at my final summons." Ping waved her staff, and the whole army of blue fire undead pulsed. Thousands of giant beasts surged towards the altar, bone wings covered the sky, transformation waves spread the Lord's magic source, the crystal core jungle cracked like thunder, the red light shattered, and the green fire was completely extinguished. The Lord's black shadow wailed, and the eyes of the abyss dimmed. "You broke the prophecy, but the full moon." Before he could finish his words, Ruoxi raised the magic weapon and struck the final blow. Waves of blue and black light poured out like a galaxy, penetrating the core of the black shadow. The heat wave of the explosion hit his face, the altar collapsed, and the magic ripples shattered into dust. The military formation outside cheered like a sea, the blue fire reflected the red night sky, the dwarves' war songs resounded, and the elves murmured victory. Xingjie gasped and stepped forward, patted her shoulder. "Leader, you saved us. The prototype of another world is in your hands." Ping hugged the staff tightly. "Transform the entire army, and the undead will obey the new order." Ruoxi held the book tightly, the prophecy page turned to golden light, the blood red of the full moon faded, and her heart transformed like the morning sun. "From a time-traveling girl to a savior leader, I dedicate everything to rule this land for peace." In the wind, the low roar is extinguished, the blue fire pulses like a new heartbeat, and in the residual warmth of the war, the dawn of another world faintly breaks. The ruins of the ruined abyss trembled under the bloody light of the full moon. The pulse of the blue fire undead army echoed through the night sky like a heartbeat. The rubble and the smoke of the green fire embers were still slowly drifting away. Ruoxi stood beside the collapsed altar, and the blue-black light wave of the destruction divine weapon gradually dimmed. She gasped and clenched the hilt of the sword, sweat mixed with the smell of blood sliding down her forehead. Xingjie stood up holding the broken sword, and Ping's staff reorganized and the green light pulsed steadily. The surrounding alliance troops poured in like a blue tide, and the cheers surged like waves. The hammering rhythm of the dwarves and the murmur of the elves intertwined into a symphony of victory. In the distance, the blood moon slowly sets in the west, faintly showing signs of dawn, making this wilderness seem to be reborn. Ruoxi, we won. Ping stepped forward and hugged her, with trembling joy in her voice. Her face under the cloak was covered in dust, but she smiled like a child. The entire army has been transformed. Those giant beasts now obey the new order. The Lord's body is broken and Aldia is saved. Xingjie nodded, the fatigue in his eyes turned into warmth. He patted Ruoxi's shoulder. The cracks in the armor were still dripping with blood. Leader, you hold in your hand the prototype of another world. From Ash's village to here, your blueprint, and we'll have built a new fortress. Ruoxi smiled, and a warmth surged in her heart. This foreign world turned from strangers to home, and these people turned from allies to family members. She finally felt that the weight on her shoulders had become light. But the prophecy book suddenly became as hot as fire. She looked down and saw that the page was shining with golden light, and there were faint cracks spreading. It was not over yet. The ground shook violently, and a low roar erupted from the depths of the ruins, like the roar of all beasts. The blood moon's red light surged, and black mist sprang out like a tide from under the remains of the altar. The remnant soul of the Lord was not extinct. It condensed into a twisted giant shadow, and its tentacles whipped the air like black vine whips, making a sharp whistling sound. Stupid time traveler, the prophecy lasts forever. The Lord's voice was like a chorus of ghosts, echoing in everyone's mind. The magic wave shook the continent like an earthquake. The forest on the border of Aldia trembled, the dwarf mineral veins burst, the wooden houses in Ash Village shook, and cracks appeared in the stone walls of the distant Alliance fortress. The blue fire undead army froze for a moment, and the green flames backfired faintly. The soldiers staggered to the ground, and panic spread like wildfire. It is still alive. Grum roared, and the hammer hit the black vine, but it bounced away, sending iron filings flying and a wave of heat hitting his face. Ruoxi's heart tightened. This was the final blow of the turning point. The Lord counterattacked, and the artifact that was the source of the prophecy pulsed in the core of the abyss, trying to restart the catastrophe. She gritted her teeth and stood firm, the wind mixed with the smell of decay and the red light of the blood moon blurring her vision. All the troops are listening. Fusion formation, blueprints are fully activated. She shouted, her voice penetrated and vibrated like thunder. The hum of the divine soldiers was injected into the prophecy book, and all the accumulated blueprints emerged like a galaxy: shield surround, blasting crystal core, transforming will, anti-demon ripples, aerial wingsuit, time countermeasures, all integrated into one. Her thoughts surged wildly, the pages of the book glowed with golden light, and the blueprint projections spread out into the military formation. The skeletons of the undead army were engraved with runes, the blue fire turned into a mixture of gold and blue, the bone wings of the giant beast spread out like a sky curtain, the iron frame of the fort was embedded with tree spirit symbols, and the range reached directly into the abyss. Ping waved her staff and cooperated. Transformation army, enter. Listen to Ruoxi's will. 300 blue fire undead surged towards the black shadow, bone claws tearing at the tentacles. The sound of clicking was endless. The green flame was swallowed up by the golden blue light, and turned into a boost. Saint Jia led the knights to charge, and the blue light of the broken sword reorganized. Humans will not retreat. Protect the commander. The elf archers flew through the air with wingsuits, Alan's arrows rained down, and the green flames exploded like meteors. Isabella whispered, the tree spirit obeys the order, seal the demon. The dwarf fort roared, and Grum roared, smash this damn thing. The heat wave rolled, and the minions of the orc warriors tore through the black vines, roaring and shaking the ground. The continent's tremors intensified, an abyss opened on the ground, and waves of magic came like a tsunami. Ruoxi felt that time was distorted again, and memory fragments flashed back. The beginning of the 11th cycle? No, this is the ultimate test. The Lord's black shadow swelled, and his tentacles whipped towards the heart of the army. Your growth is just a dream of prophecy. A huge claw swept across, smashing dozens of undead. The blue fire cracked with a crisp sound. Ping's barrier collapsed. She staggered back. The staff glowed green gloomy. Ruoxi, it pulled me into the illusion. Xingjie blocked the blow. Blood splashed on the armor, and the smell of rust hit his nostrils. Hold on. The alliance is won. But the shock spread to the mainland. The distant forests burned, the mines collapsed, and the smoke of the ashes village rose into the sky. Ruoxi's heart was as sharp as a knife, and the panic in her heart turned into determination. There can be no more sacrifices. This land and these people are my home. She jumped forward, holding the divine weapon high. Lord, your prophecy is over. The ultimate fusion, the divine weapon, awaken. Her thoughts burned like fire. The book's golden light surged, and the blueprint fully merged with the divine weapon. The arc of the sword expanded like a dragon's spine. The edge of the blade was intertwined with gold and blue, and the core pulsed like stars. When swung, the air tore, making a thunderous buzz. With a slash of the sword, golden blue light waves poured out like a tide, penetrating the core of the black shadow. The tentacles shattered like dead branches, the magic ripples backfired on the Lord, and the wails were deafening. The continent's tremors stopped, the cracks healed, the blue light spread like a new rain, smoothing the burned forest, stabilizing the mineral veins, and the smoke of the ashes village dispersed. The Lord's remnant soul twisted. No. The source of the artifact. The black shadow collapsed, the core of the abyss exploded, golden light shot into the sky, cracks spread in the pages of the prophecy book, runes scattered like stardust, and the hum of self-destruction echoed in the hall. Ruoxi felt like the curse was broken like a shackle, and the memories circulating in her mind turned into a free river. It was no longer pain, but a treasure house of wisdom. She knelt down, the book turned into golden powder and fell on her palms, and her heart was completely liberated. From a lost girl in time travel to a savior hero who has gone through hardships, this transformation was like the dawn, complete and warm. It's over, no more loops, I'm free. The military formation turned from silence to cheers, and the blue fire undead knelt down and pulsed like a salute. Xingjie stepped forward to help her stand up, with tears in his smile. Ruoxi, you have resolved everything. The mainland is saved, and the new order begins here. Ping hugged the two people, laughing loudly. Protect the ones you love, we did it. The undead army is under your command, all races the alliance will be reorganized. Grum laughed loudly and hit the ground with his hammer. Ha, little girl, the dwarf mineral vein is stable, I will give you the hammer of peace. Isabella nodded, her silver hair flashing in the dawn. The elven forest is reborn, and the green arrow will protect the new kingdom forever. The orc chief roared, the tribe joins, your will is like a claw. A few days later, in the square of Iron Hui Castle, the alliance celebration was as lively as a festival. The aroma of barbecue was fragrant, dwarf wine barrels were rolling, elves sang like wind chimes, and villagers and soldiers cheered. The full moon has passed, the blood red has turned into bright white, and the blue fire undead guard the city wall, no longer monsters, but guardians of the new order. Ruoxi stood on the high platform, holding in her hand the peace badge reshaped from book ashes gold and blue runes, symbolizing her transformation. She looked at Xingjie and Ping standing side by side, and a warm current of satisfaction surged in her heart. From the message on the phone screen to the leadership here, I thought it was just a bloody time travel. I didn't expect that the hardships made me find my home. Protecting you, this land, is my destiny. Xingjie shook her hand. You not only saved the world, but also built a home. You will lead the Alliance Council. Ping blinked, the tactical think tank is online at any time. In the new order, we plant flowers and do not fight? Amid the cheers, Ruoxi smiled, and her inner reflection was like a breeze. 11 times of pain came in exchange for this perfection. From the helpless battle between tree branches to the attack of the ultimate divine weapon, she grew into the leader of another world, dedicating everything to peace. Aldia is reborn, all races prosper together, and the blue fire pulses like eternal protection. In the wind, the dawn shines, and the refreshing sense of freedom is like a tide, washing away all the shadows.